Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, mothers and fuckers, welcome back to the booth. I am your host, Jackie Boy. I am so excited to be back with my crew, this crew of handsome and talented individuals with very pretty eyes and even prettier voices. So today with me, I've got all of our hosts. I'll go around real quick and just introduce them. We've got Vega, owner of Buttermilk Esports and known Enchanter player. Vega, would you like to say a few introductory words?
Happy to be back for our third season with me on the booth. Really excited about it. These wonderful gentlemen that I get to share the stage with or the booth with. Really excited about this year. We got a lot of great content ideas for you guys this year. Really excited.
A lot of great ideas. We'll see if those make it past the ideas stage. Another organizational owner. We've got Les Force with us, owner of Team Volatility. Not yet playing on it, but we'll get to that in a second. Les Force, would you like to say a few introductory words?
Yeah, I mean, Vega took the words right out of my mouth. Off season went super quickly, but I'm excited for this banger of a season. Like, what is there? 88 teams, a lot of exciting stuff on the horizon.
Yes, I am incredibly excited to get back at this LBLCS action with all of y'all. And we've also got Valentine, famous LBLCS historian, owner of no orgs, but all the knowledge. Valentine, would you like to say a few words?
I am also very, very excited for the booth to be back. I cannot wait to make bold claims and never have to back them up.
Okay, that is actually basically the tagline for the show. It's bold claims with absolutely nothing backing it up. So today we are going to go over all the different groups for all the different leagues. So we've got a lot of content to get through, and yeah. So we're gonna the way that we're gonna do it. And actually, you know what? I'll just transition right on over to our screen. So that way I'm just pointing at things as opposed to that. All right, so we've got all the teams here in this column, and then we're gonna rank it sort of on like a tier list system. So we've got the S tier, the favorites. We've got the bubble tiers, kind of the middle of the pack. We've got the underdogs here, so that's basically like, all right, like we want to see them come on up. And then we've got the dark horses. So these are going to be the teams where it's like we don't know much about them. Maybe they're newcomers. I don't know. Unsure. Don't really know what to do with them. And then now we can go ahead and start getting into this. And I'm being told I'm talking a lot. So I can talk a whole lot more, which I think everybody knows, but nobody wants to experience. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to my lovely analyst. We're going to go through all of these teams. Folks, what is what are our first thoughts for Economy Group A?
I'll kick it off. I think first of all, looking at this group, really strong group. A lot of teams that have a lot of known names. And obviously reigning champions in this group. High Alert Legion, which High Alert Hijinks won last year. Obviously, I think that name's going to jump out to you immediately. High Alert as an org was very good last year. Got pretty good history of competing. And we've also got a few other known names in this group. Nefarious. We've got Soy Milk. We've got Cuddly League guys. A lot of different names in here that you expect to be pretty good. I assume... Oh, wait, they didn't win. Sorry, they didn't win. My fault. I forgot Sammy's team existed.
That is crazy.
That's how you do it right there. That's how you start a season, okay?
There we go. There we go.
There we go. That's
Nefarious
how you do
up
it.
your head.
I mean,
okay.
to be fair, both of the finalists are in this group, right? So you could have, if you like immediately were like Nefarious, obviously.
I was put up to this.
Yeah, true. I did bribe you before the cast. But I didn't have to know that.
That's what happens, guys. That's what happens. Sammy Dodger scrimmed with us last night, so that's what happens. That's why I got you this morning.
JIS playing games, Group of Death, Fifth Spectrum on top. So if you see an asterisk at the start of a team name, that means that they are new to the LBLCS. So I love the Fifth Spectrum coming in with some heat here. I feel like that could probably be our first dark horse of the season. I mean, you got when you come in with that much heat, you gotta have something to back it up. So I am ready to see them.
Mhm.
Do we feel like that is an acceptable response?
Well, Fifth Spectrum came in hot. They posted a video, basically a hype video. I think, like the core of this roster, or like a chunk of this roster, at least, has been playing since like 2017
Wow.
competitively. I would go as far to put them in like, I would put them just under the favorites. I
Okay, so
would
you
say.
feel like they're an
Which,
A tier, they're a bubble team, but sort of on the top end of that.
yeah, yeah, I think they're gonna be. I wouldn't be surprised if they'll be up there fighting with Legion and Soy Milk
Yeah.
Lifestyle.
Yeah, from what I could tell, it looked like they have like a lot of pre-existing synergy, and sometimes when it comes to like new teams,
Mhm.
like they don't necessarily have that, and so they're kind of like playing catch up.
Yep.
But I mean, especially if Fifth Spectrum's able to kind of like come out the gates hot, and there were definitely a couple of players that I was like looking at on the roster that look like they can certainly hold their own. Calling out in chat, they're saying that Snowflake Gecko is going to be the best mid in the league.
In the entire league, I
Um,
Hmm.
love it. I love it.
so
Mhm.
I definitely, yeah, I think having that like the pre-existing synergy like should be like especially early on should be a big boon for him.
Hmm. Yeah, having that team-wide synergy as you're coming into a competitive environment, especially when you're competing with other kind of teams in this sort of more casual competitive state, having that macro kind of cohesion advantage is going to be huge. So, Fifth Spectrum coming into the LBLCS right out the gate, top of our A tier, potentially pushing into that S tier for favorites, and absolutely coming in with a ton of spunk. Don't
Hmm.
don't make anything out of that comment. All right,
Okay.
like moving right along. Do we feel like there are any obvious favorites in this group that we can start slotting into those top two slots there?
All right. I've come bearing a take already.
Okay.
Um,
Please.
Nefarious Gaming Outlaws is going to be a good team, but despite being the reigning champs, they're not my favorite for this group. I think the favorites for this group are.
There's no way we have the
my,
soundboard ready for that.
well, I think my favorites would have to be Soy Milk and High Alert. Coming into this season, those two. I think High Alert obviously went to the finals. I think, and unless I am remembering awfully, I think it's a majority of the same roster that just went to finals. Um, I think there is no reason to doubt that team. And as for Soy Milk, I think they turned it up heavy towards the end of their season. In the same way, I think they kind of mirrored Buttermilk in that way. They turned up towards the end of the season, and I think that's also going to kind of continue into this season. So I'm interested in how I think those two teams will take those will take my favorite spots, but I think Nefarious Gaming is easily going to be a bubble team.
Okay,
Yeah,
What do you
I
so
think?
think.
you've definitely got some support from the high alerters here. We're seeing some hork-ups in the
Good shock.
chat, which for the uninitiated,
Yeah.
that is the high alert chant. But Vega, I cut you off.
No, I was gonna say I agree. Obviously, um, in my own head canon, I don't know all the teams and scrim results and what's going on with every team. But personally, I would have put Soy kind of in that bubble area between the top and middle, based on the same thing. 3/5 of the same roster coming back as last year. Plus their top laner moving down from Buttermilk into Soy Milk this year, which was financial to there, was on the like lower end of the financial team. So that should theoretically be an upgraded top lane. But to me, High Alert was one of the few ones that I like circled. Was like I believe 100% High Alert's going to be a top two spot in this group. I think NGO and Soy are more in a mix for me
Okay.
of like
Mhm.
floating in between that bubble and second spot. Like it would not surprise me if either of them were there. And I think this is going to be my hot take of the thing right here is I think Italy League guys should be somewhere in that bubble area. That's a team that could surprise.
I was gonna say they're my dark horse as well. That's where I was gonna have them.
Okay.
So
All right, Val.
dark horse, bubble. Less Forest, do you want to be a tiebreaker on the Cuddly League guys here?
So I mean, with CLG, I mean, I definitely think they look solid on paper. I mean, Yordle has been around for a long time. There's definitely some players that are recognizable on the roster. They did, and I don't know how many players on this iteration of CLG were on the. Of course, Bear, owner of High Alert, was running that all-season tournament, and they did win the ELO average. That's like equivalent to Econ. They won that tournament,
Right.
So there's a lot of good players on the team that can certainly hang in a competitive setting. I would probably, like, if I had to, on the spot, probably towards like that, like end of bubble into like underdog. Like, there's a lot of room for fluctuation there, I think, with CLG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a good point that Les Force brought out this. If we want to cite some of the off-season tournaments, it was, I believe, Soy Milk and I can't remember who was finals of the High Alert Economy thing. But to be fair, for people who are reading into that, Soy Milk was playing with subs in that tournament, so don't read too far into that as far as what this roster will be playing on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and Azog had a good comment here as a newcomer. Like, what are the skill ratings? And so economy is sort of our like IBS league, which we do not mean irritable bowel syndrome, but we do mean iron, bronze, silver, and gold.
I think it's moved up.
Moved up
A little bit.
I was like, I think it's moved up.
It's like IBSG, and like every team could maybe have like one or maybe two platinums tops, but typically it's like
and it's like platforms. It's like not
like bronze to gold-ish.
So bronze to gold kind of range, and then we're going to get into commercial, which is our like gold platinum range, and then financial, which is like emerald, diamond, and then executive, which is the big dogs.
Diamond plus.
Those are all the fun ones. Bark. So, like, final say. Do we want to? Do Cuddly League guys feel like a dark horse, a team where maybe the expectations weren't necessarily as high, and maybe they could punch above those expectations, or do we feel like we're more comfortable putting them into a stable bubble tier?
Les Force's points kind of push me towards more of like I would say almost an underdog tier, because it's like we could see where the potential is there to be a team that's in that bubble area in the season, but also, we don't know. We don't know enough about them yet to really make an accurate description on them. We haven't seen enough. So maybe an underdog team.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I agree with this, yes.
Okay. Good.
I also, I have a new development in my head.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
That's an idea, Val.
What?
Something's happening up there.
What if High Alert is the sole favorite team, and then Soy Milk, NGO, and Fifth Spectrum are our bubble teams, right?
I feel better about that personally,
right?
Because I think that's more of a soup below. Like, High Alert to me feels like the most, like, if I were a betting man, which I'm not, that would be my kind of like, okay, they're odds on. I haven't been to Atlantic City, but like that below that, I'm like, I could see those teams kind of in a mix together. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't have a strong take on that. I think the Legion are going to be really good, obviously. Pickle made Econ Finals last season. He's holding it back down the top lane. They brought in Blanco Mamba from Two Town, who had a really good season. And then Pantene, the jungler. Definitely think, because I was talking with him in call at one point, giving a little bit of pointers. I think he's going to be a really good player.
If you were giving him pointers, then.
Well,
never mind.
He's
tough. Yeah, maybe High Alert down there. But they also brought in a Devil from Nefarious, who won last season, and I think that's kind of like we've kind of glossed over the champs a little bit. And I think the big thing that everyone has to keep in mind is that they lost a lot. Not saying that they won't be in that playoff picture and like pushing for a championship again, but they're gonna have to find like a new way to do it, because I think so much of what made Nefarious click last season was Luffy. I think Luffy, in the jungle, playing
real blue guy, that one.
Yeah, his demented
force,
full crit Jarvan, and this AP Zac. Like, he is such a dynamic player, and he was just able to kind of run Econ in that sense. And now he's in commercial, which we'll get to later. So it's just like Nefarious just has to show us like what this new era looks like, I think.
Yeah,
PLE.
100%.
Yeah, the post-Luffy era.
Post-Luffy era. We'll have to see exactly how sticky was that glue. Now, I want to make sure that we're keeping cool time here. So we've got a few more teams left to slot in. We've got Sperm Whales, which are a new team, Tactical Feed, and Funny Business Investors. So talk to me a little bit about these three teams. Where do we feel like they fall into our rankings between favorite, bubble, underdog, and dark horses?
For me, I'll start on Tactical Feed a little bit. I think Tactical Feed kind of is in that dark horse tier for me. Last year they showed some promise in certain games, and you saw series where they just weren't quite able to put it together. But you saw promise of like over the course of the season they were a team that was getting better, and I think having a year of competition for that team's core under their belt will be better coming into this season. It is a tough group. There's a lot of really good teams in it, but now they're not as they play, a lot of these teams were in the group last year. They played against a lot of these players before, so they have a better expectation of what's going to be happening in this season. So if they can keep their momentum from like the end of last season when they were improving into this season, I believe that team could punch up. But for now, still dark horse for me.
Okay, so still a little bit yet to be determined on them, but to be determined in a way where if that coin lands heads, you feel like things might look pretty good for them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking. Yeah. Yes.
Sure. I mean, whoever.
I started reading Twitch chat immediately after my point.
Like, it's just hard with the other two because there's a lot of new names. Obviously, there are some returning players, especially on like Funny Business Investors. They've got Sems, played in Financial last season, so coming down to Econ this season. I see a couple other recognizable names on FBI. So maybe just in that sense of like they've been here before, maybe kind of gives me that like slight push for them in like that 1-to-1 over the Sperm Whales, but even on paper, like looking at the Sperm Whales roster, like I can see this being a really good team. Like there's a lot of like pretty solid point value players. It's just a matter of like we're just reading, the players like OPGGs. We're seeing what their points are. We're not seeing like how they play on the Rift together, and so it's just kind of going to be like that's a team that I want to see the first couple weeks and see what they actually are.
There's a little bit of dispute in the chat between Sammy and Sems about whether or not Sems can actually even play in Econ, so I guess that will yet to be determined.
Not even on the roster upon checking the OP.GG. That's actually really funny. There is someone on that roster, though. So,
well, at least there's somebody on the roster. So do we feel like that is like? Do we feel like they kind of slot more into our bubble team or our
underdog?
Our
I think
underdog.
they are.
Okay.
And all milk members from the chat.
Oh yeah, love
and
Sperm Whales. Do we know anything about? Do we know anything about these people? Are any of them in the chat and can kind of rival the Fifth Spectrum spunk that was displayed? Tell us a little bit about that.
Have the Sperm Whales come up for air yet? Are there any? I mean, for looking at their roster, I mean, to me, it's going to be a team that's in the underdog dark horse tier. You see a couple people like looking through the champions, like Les Force says, at this time of year, a lot of these newer teams were going off OP.GG. I didn't make an algorithm this year to spit out a random champion. But there's some really exciting champions on some of these lists. And definitely a team that I'll be excited to watch. And every time we get a new team, I like it because it's that more of like when you play against the same players in your league, you kind of get an idea of what they play, what champions they're known for, stuff like that. Every time a new team comes in, it's a new wrinkle, right? It's a new, if you're casting or watching or playing, it's a new like, oh my gosh, there's a guy on this team who's like a Nami mid one trick. And you're like, okay, now I have to prep this week to play against this. And that's going to be something to watch for. So I'm excited for him. I mean, anytime we get new teams, it's an exciting thing.
Yes, I am a huge fan of getting new teams. There aren't a ton of them in the league until we go up to executive. You're going to see like there's a few asterisks across economy, and then some more in commercial, and then not very many in financial, and then like 3/4 of executive are like new teams. So that is incredibly exciting. But if we're going to slot Sperm Whales, right? So where do we feel like that sperm comes in?
Okay.
Oof. Got to be at the head of the pack. I mean, if I had to.
Yeah, I mean, we're just I want sometimes I want to put them there. I just don't want to shaft them by putting them like up super high. Then there's all those expectations. Like I know that like sometimes like I get a little bit nervous, and sometimes like if my expectations are all the way there, then I can't get my play up to that level. But
Yeah, it just feels really bad after the fact for sure.
yeah. All right, I think we're gonna put those
I think
people
we
in
should go
dark horse. And
horse.
I think we need to
Yeah, I
move
think dark
on.
horse is good.
All right. Yeah.
Oh God, please, let's go to economy B.
Alrighty, Economy B. Here we go. We've got another two new teams in Optimal Esports Vanguard and Colorado Keg Killers, which is a great name, by the way.
Fucking great name.
Great name.
Really good.
What are the first kind of instincts that you guys have? You're looking at this. We're seeing a bit more of those kind of returning faces. Vega, you've got a team there with 2%. Less Force, you've got a team there with the Rat Squires. Tell me a little bit about this group.
I mean, I think 2% milk probably has to be in that S tier right off the bat. I mean,
Do they?
this is now they're under the milk banner, long-time Scud players. They've made playoffs. I think every season that the core of like Cavino Tocino, Vader used to choke, Mulife joined the fray last year. Like they've consistently been one of the best teams in econ, and like they've just come up short in those like at the playoff spot, but like to get there you have to be one of the favorites. So I would probably again say if not they're the favorite in B, they got to be one of the top two.
All right, it sounds like Valentine was about to challenge you on that, and then also took a massive bite of food. So I'm gonna pass to Vega to vamp for a bit while Valentine chews and finishes their bite.
Yeah, I think definitely bordering the S tier in the favorites, just based off like the core of the team and the success they had together previously. Obviously, I had to speak. I'm going to try to separate myself from any biases here. But yeah, I think definitely looking at that, they were one game from finals last year, lost in game 3 of semifinals last year in economy with this core. Obviously have some new players in AD carry, top, and jungle. So it's only 2/5 of that core that's back. So that's why I kind of lean towards maybe the bubble of not giving them the full like credit of like the full team coming back. But definitely should be in the upper half team just based on like names that we know that have performed previously. Like I said, been in playoffs pretty much every season they've been in. I'm looking at your roster sheet right now, and I'm not counting people that were technically on a roster and not starting. Okay, just because they're on the roster does not mean they were putting real dividends in. That's my
Yeah.
Ouch.
Okay.
Hello.
Look, even Vader's agreeing. He said fair. He's on the team. But yeah, even still, like, I think even if we do count 3/5, I still think it would be bubble or the lower favorite.
Maybe top of bubble, like
top of bubble. Just I think with a new group, and obviously you're playing against teams you haven't played against, though. I think that's probably the case, right? Yeah. I always hesitate if there's not a team that's. I look at them and I'm like 100%. I'm hearing they're slamming everyone in scrims. I'm hearing they're beating everybody, and they have like returning 4/5 of a roster that won. It's hard for me to be like, you're an S tier. I'm okay with that.
Okay, all right. I can see where you're coming from on that. Val, do you want to add your points?
I will say, I think I would put 2% milk there because I think Scud has always been a very strong team. They've found themselves in the econ playoffs pretty commonly over the last few seasons. I think now we're kind of waiting for them to really break into the econ immortality area where they kind of grab that win, or like kind of really have like a superstar payoff performance. So I think that, and I think they're perfectly capable of doing that from that tier. Because my S tier team is Doggy Bone Goblin Zone.
Okay.
Those guys are
big hot.
That team's terrifying.
Also S tier name.
Before we go over to that, I just want to flash back to Econ A for just a second here while folks kind of get that. And if you don't get it down, don't worry. We will make sure to come back to these time and time again to see exactly how right but mostly wrong we were about these types of things. Our track record is maybe 22%. So I'll make
It's
sure that
better than that.
there's screenshots of it somewhere, or you can go back and check the VOD, or you can tune into future episodes of the booth where I am certain that we'll pull up this exact sheet and roast ourselves. Alrighty, so where we had left off in Economy B was Valentine was giving their hot take of the day by putting Doggy Bone Goblin Zone up in S tier. Less Force, I want to kick it over to you. What do you think about that rating?
I mean, it's fine. I think maybe last season we fell into this trap because a lot of this roster were the players who were on Drox's deputies, and they had a really good regular season, but then they kind of flamed out in the playoffs. You know, it's a lot of like this is the team with like Buggle, LaChance, Plead the Fifth with the very nasty Shaco support. I remember. They should be good. They should be a playoff team. I don't know. I saw Pickle was saying like immediate S. To me, they're kind of like what Vega was saying, and his thoughts about 2% would kind of be my thoughts about Doggy Bone. Kind of like maybe if it's not clear and conclusive, I wouldn't put them in S, but someone's got to be like the favorite. And so I wouldn't hate if this is like who we call the favorite, just like I gotta see Buggle maybe play NADC this season because I think he played like only like Yasuo and like anything that wasn't an 80 carry in that role last season, right? I think that was last
Actually,
season.
that was last season, but he won't have to, which is my main reason for putting Doggy Bone Goblin Zone in S tiers because they're what it looks like. Yeah, their new ADC is Vivisol
Oh,
from OE Horizons last season.
Okay.
That reaction, that exact reaction, Les Force, is like that's like when I saw that I was like, alrighty then. That kind of got me to go, well, maybe, just maybe, I have more faith in an admin team this time around because they've added like
A
Vivisol,
non-admin?
who,
Oh.
and yeah, added a very good non-admin. Yeah, Vivisol's a monster and could turn this team into someone who I have genuine faith in. Because yeah, all the admins do is like let me down when it comes to playing the game.
So it sounds like there's something fresh and exciting for this Doggy Bone Goblin Zone team, which is one of our faded admin teams. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. What are some other sort of like things that jump out at you right off the bat?
I guess I'll go with like Body Break, who they kind of like they didn't make the playoffs last season in Econ, but from what I could tell, they were kind of like a new team. I think they're maybe like flex players that kind of like play with each other a bunch before, but it's like a different environment jumping into competitive play. But like in the second half of the season, they were kind of picking up some wins, and I think they were like maybe a series out of playoffs. So I think a lot of the roster is still the same. Like I recognize like Dirty Dishes and Estran had some really good moments in the second half. Like maybe that to me is a team that's kind of in that like top of underdog. I mean, the line between underdog and dark horse is kind of hard, but I think that could be a team
It's blurred, yeah.
with that extra season of experience. Like they could be pretty good.
Okay, so Body Break is coming back with a couple of familiar faces that could potentially be punching up there. Vega, Valentine, any thoughts on Body Break that you want to add to Lest Force's analysis before we slot them into a tier?
No, I thought Body Break last year was a team that I got to coach against them. I got to play against them. Not play against them, but I got to coach against them, and I thought they were a team that kind of exceeded expectations on like their record and stuff like that. Really good group of guys too. Their scheduling is something that was really easy. But yeah, I kind of agree with what Les Force says. It's a really good take on them because like I think they're a team that potentially could surprise people. But I outside of what Les said, that's pretty much the take on it.
Okay, Valentine, would you like to add on top of that, and then help us make a decision in terms of exactly what tier we want to put these people in?
Yeah, I think Body Break is one of those teams that you are going to be rooting for as soon as the season starts. I think they're actually pretty super solid. I think this is a very tough group for them to draw, but I still think they'll be able to hold their own. I'd put them probably top of underdog. All right.
Top of underdog. All right. Vega, Less Force, do you guys want to challenge the top of underdog ranking for the body breakers?
Nope, I'm fine
Yeah,
with it.
I'm fine with that. I think that's fine. I think that's accurate.
So we've got Milk, Doggy Bone, and Body Break up in there. So that just leaves us with, from the returning teams, Two Town Gaming, the Rat Squires, and the Kickin' Squids. And then we've got our newbies, the Keg Killers, and Optimal Esports Vanguard. Let's go to the newbies first before we come back to some of these LBLCS mainstays. What do we think happens in the Colorado Keg Killers and Optimal Esports Vanguard? What happens between these couple of teams?
OE seems to produce these teams with like very, very solid individual talent, like year in, year out. When they were initially Ginyu Force is what I think about. And we got the arrival of Rito Trad, among other things. And of course Big Shot Larry, who is now OE TRC2, I'm pretty sure, and of course VV Saul. Um, so I actually have a decent amount of faith. I put Vanguard in the bubble. They are constantly able to create these super solid teams that turn into something worth being scared of.
All right, so we've got an org
maybe
kind of coming in here, but Vega, it sounds like you're wanting to challenge that a little bit.
No, I was going to say bubble. Maybe I'm just aboard the trad train, but I was a little bit like maybe not like one favorite, but maybe like 1A favorite of like I have faith in that. And like my quiet personal rankings from looking at the rosters, I was like, I actually think that roster's really sick. Assuming it glues, which maybe bubble is the right place since I am on the assumption that everything glues and functions together. But it would not surprise me to watch that team wind up very high up at the end of the season.
Okay. And Less Force, do you want to challenge the bubble ranking here, or would you like to solidify in with your fellow analysts?
I mean, I think that spot is fine. I think, and maybe this kind of like segues like a little bit into our other new team. I think on paper the Colorado Keg Killers look a little more well-rounded. And maybe like 1-to-1. And I guess that's just kind of like how you view like roster construction, because like with OE, there's like they have a couple of like the higher end of the spectrum players, kind of like pushing that like high gold, low plat, whereas the Colorado Keg Killers, it's like a lot more like well-rounded, and they don't have as many like it's like a lot of players in that like middle spot. So like in theory, there shouldn't be any like quote unquote weak sides in the game. Like they should all have that ability to kind of pop off just depending on how the game goes. And I think I kind of like that well-rounded approach a little more. So like 1-to-1, I would put the Keg Killers above Vanguard, but again, like I wouldn't hate the argument the other way around.
So you hate trad.
Well,
yes,
well, Trad
on that team.
Trad's in commercial. We will talk about Mr.
Yeah,
Trad.
we will talk about Trad, and I have a feeling we'll return
talk
to
about
Trad.
Rito Trad.
So Valen Vega, Less Force is sort of putting a little bit of a challenge here in terms of putting the Keg Killers above Vanguard here. Do you guys feel like that's a fair assessment, or are you guys wanting to push back and use the majority vote to kind of keep Vanguard in the number 2 bubble slot and move Keg Killers to number 3?
I respect a well-formulated argument, and I see Less Force point. Like, I think we just have, there's two different thought processes here of like what we think, could be a thing. And I do think Less Force's logic is solid. I think that's a good thing. I would not be upset to see either of those teams placed above each other on the list. I think it just depends. Like when you look at the we stuff, you're saying like, hey, how hard can their carries carry? And on the other side, you're saying, this team's very well rounded. They don't have as many weak spots that can be, attacked. So I don't want to push against. If I am pushing against it, it's not very strongly. It's a light tap, like
a gentle shove,
a gentle nudge, if you will,
a nudge, even just like a hey, excuse me, I'm behind you. Just very almost caressing-esque.
Hey.
Well, I mean, hey, that's I can't argue with that. Valentine, would you?
That's my list.
Yeah. I can't. That's my list. I agree with Vega 100%.
Okay.
I stand on that. That's fair.
Okay. Someone clip that.
I think my pick for dark horse in this group would be two teams. It would be Kickin' Squids and the Rat Squires. I think both of those guys are the Kickin' Squids. Every season, they're like fifth seed, fourth seed, right? Almost every season, especially like the last 2-3 seasons, to the point where they and their former econ champs a while ago. So I think it is definitely not out of the question for them to come in and have a very solid season and come out making the playoffs in a very what I think is going to be a difficult group. And meanwhile, Team Volatility Rat Squares, they've got the structure and they have one of the most unsung players of former economy. Jack's familiar. They have Grand Ponta on this roster.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding.
Oh my god.
So I think that team, I think that team is going to be very fun to watch, and I think Team Volatility and the Rat Squires are going to kind of give them the right vibe. I'm really excited to see how they do, and I would put them in the dark horse area.
Yes, Grand Ponta was one of the 4 free agents that I picked up and formed the very first Panther Core team. So I will be rooting for Ponta and the Rat. And Valentine, how did you pronounce that team name? Team Volatility Rat what?
Squires.
Yeah, there you go. Squires.
Is it not Squires?
It is Squires. You pronounced it Squares. I think when you
I
first said
did
it.
know that, and I was like,
Man, leave me alone.
And that season
Rat
ended
Squares.
great. We were at least in the top 2. And so I'll be cheering for Ponta on that one, and then that just leaves us with Two Town Gaming, unless Vega or Less Force would like to challenge the dark horse ranking of either the Rats or the Squids.
No, go ahead.
I would. This is tough. Personally, I kind of think Squids should be this is tough because then in my head I'm like, what's different, underdog or dark horse? Dark horse for championship, underdog. If they're in order, then I would push Kickin' Squids up because they were a playoff team last season.
Squids plus Squires.
Yeah,
Nice.
So Squids above Squires. That's just my personal. I'm not really have a problem with the ranking. They were a playoff team last season. I think that should mean something. That part of their core was there. They at least, and down the split they won. They were a team that had, I think it was 4 games to play with 2 weeks left, and won like 3 series. Yeah, they went like 3-1 in their last 4, and like clutched up at the end of the season to make it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that but I don't want. Yeah, I don't want to cause waves. I don't want to, ripple the water.
Yeah. I mean, Two Towns also, just because they were a kind of a surprise team. They came in and like shocked some people with their appearance and just how well they were playing when the playoffs started. But by the time we got out of that first series, got into their second series, everybody kind of knew what was going on. Two Town absolutely blew it out the water. And while they did lose their Blanco Mamba, they're still pretty damn good. I'd give them credit for. I think I'd still put them in the bubble as well.
Yeah, followers of Econ last season will remember the Zinzao mid coming out from J-Croft. Hopefully, not blowing that up, for the team. But like that dude was, very had some aggressive picks for sure. Not just the Zinzao. And they do have a lot of the same core. Even like you said, they lost Blanco. I believe they have a new jungler this season. But there's still a lot of pieces that were here before that can kind of like guide those newcomers.
Okay,
it's going to be a very, very fun team to watch.
Yeah, and I think Economy is like so consistently like one of the most fun leagues to watch, just because like the teams will pull out shit like Zinzao mid or like honestly whatever, and you can watch it like thrive, right? Because it's just like this like random like gold 4 like Zinzao mid 1 trick, and they just like they steamroll an entire game, and then it gets permabanned against them for the rest of the season. Like those are the types of really cool storylines that you can see in Economy B. We have got that's all of our teams in Economy B. So we've got Doggy Bone, Goblin Zone up in our S tier. Our bubble tier is filled out with 2%, Optimal Esports Vanguard, Colorado Keg Killers, and Two Town Gaming. That is followed by our underdog tier containing Body Break and the Kickin' Squids, and identifying our dark horse as the dork horse.
Dork horse.
The dark horse as the Team Volatility Rat Squire. So that will be rounding out our economy B. And as we step up, we go back to letter A in the alphabet, and we are in commercial. So, folks, tell me a little bit about this commercial group. What do we need to know?
It's a big org group. Just kind of generally put that out there. You got TV, you got Panther Corps, you got High Alert, you got Serenity.
One could even say it's kind of an orgy.
Well,
something like that.
One could say that, but one might not choose to say that.
Yeah, probably better to avoid it. But like, I think it's not. I think
now that it's out there, it's like, what can you do, right?
Well, now that we've said it.
All right, so in this group of teams, where might we start slotting some of these people into tiers? Any off the bat favorites or dark horses?
Just keep trying to call me.
Wow, I'm really struggling.
Are you okay today?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be super honest. I don't have a favorite in this group.
Me either. I was like, I don't.
I think between Coven, the closest I get to a team I would absolutely put into favorites, it would be Coven, just because let me double check. I'm pretty sure this is the same. This is a roster that they've ran before. This is a roster that's played a lot between. But yeah, it's not even really the same roster within that. So I would say I'd put Coven, Sentinels, Serenity, and honestly, Rat Lords and Subhuman Sorcerers all in the bubble.
So you would fill out the entire bubble tier with, as it looks like, all of these teams, plus Subhuman Resources. Why is this one?
Yeah, I think whatever you did, it's just the one tier. It's just the one cell. That is my bubble tier. Subhuman Resources is probably the one name where a lot of people may not recognize them. I played against them in a commercial B last season. That is a roster that is solid in every single lane. Between Psygenesis, I played against Psygenesis, who's an amazing Karma player at the height of like Malignant's Karma being broken. That was maybe like one of the worst games I've had to play through in my entire life. To the point where we had to pick it the game after, just so we didn't have to like deal with it. And then we made the mistake of allowing it again in game 3. I'm pretty sure, because we didn't learn our lesson.
I was surprised that they didn't make playoffs last season. Like I thought that Subhuman Resources like were one of those top teams in Group B, and like I can't remember if it was just like down the stretch, kind of dropped a couple series and they like just missed the cut. But I thought they were really good last season. And I think they have pretty much, if not all of the same players. They've got several. I think it's like Carly, Slate Jepsen, and Sentient Trash.
That's a fantastic username.
Such a good name. It is such a good name.
It's such a good name. And I hate this, but Psygenesis did rename to Goblin Effer 69. I'm pretty sure
had such a good thing going, and then just like
I may be wrong in that rename, but I'm like 99% sure that's who that is. So
yeah, it is.
That's just how it is. But I mean, still an amazing player, all things considered.
Yeah, Subhuman was the bar last season. They were 3-3 and 8-8 in games, and were one position behind making playoffs.
Like very close to playoffs. I think they're going to kick in the door on this group. I think they're going to challenge all of these orgs. One of these orgs may be severely disappointed come playoffs, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Which one, Val?
Do you want my answer? Do you want my answer? Or are you sure? I'll say.
That's a lot of drama.
I'll say. I am not afraid of the flag.
Okay, wait till Group C.
Okay, I'll wait till Group C. Yeah. And to be very clear, because I'm absolutely not afraid. I played against this man in Financial when he first. The Rat Lord's top laner is called Briar's Toe Cleaner. Which is renamed, by the way, from I Suck Briar's Toes, I'm pretty sure. So there's a theme here, an awful theme, a pretty shit theme, if you ask me.
Theme.
But it insisted upon us, unfortunately. And then, by the way, has the audacity every time he comes to report his own name change, he's like, "Guys, I'm sorry. Your choice. It's your choice. You cannot apologize."
Yeah,
you are making the active decision to change your name to something Briar Toe related, and then apologizing to us. That it feels empty. But I am excited for Ratlords. I am really excited to see how he does on the commercial level. I think he'll kick some ass.
Yeah, I mean he's made semifinals back-to-back seasons. Obviously BYOB a couple seasons ago in financial, and then Italy last season. Now he's kind of captaining a squad under the TV Rats banner, which I love that we've gotten into the Royal sector. Just got to put that out there real quick. But no, I think it's a lot of newcomers to competitive play, and so it's going to kind of be a lot on Mr. Toe Cleaner to kind of like guide them on how like do drafts and kind of just that whole week-to-week process. So they'd be a team that I wouldn't be surprised if like first couple weeks, they drop a series here and there, but like especially in that second half of the season, I think that top side can be one of the strongest in all of commercial. Because I mean, we've seen Briar's Toe Cleaner, super consistent top laner. Chasey B, I'm not going to reveal the spicy picks, but has some very high carry potential jungler picks. And so I think on paper, like they should be really good come the end of the season.
You can tell us if they're going to play a Heartsteel Corki jungle. It's okay. We'll be ready.
Yeah.
Well, if Briar's Toe Cleaner was in the jungle, it's like pretty likely. But if they're trying to win, probably not with him in jungle.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? You always see some really fun and interesting stuff. So we've got four teams. I can count. 3 teams that are left to talk about here. We've got the Mighty Pandas and the Lurkers, and then we've got a new team, the LPP Boys. So where do we feel like these teams might slot into our remaining slots? And we've filled out bubble. So I feel like if we want to put another team in the bubble tier, then we're going to have to bump either somebody up or somebody down. So with these remaining 3 teams, where do we feel like they might slot into our slots? Slot into the slots. There we go.
I'll say for LPB Boys, I'm pretty confident putting them in the dark horse tier. They're a team that maybe you guys have some more information on them. I don't have a lot. I've really just looked through like history on stuff like that. Their player roster and things like that. Oh my gosh.
I just opened. Okay.
Oh gosh, good God. All right, relax. You can just paste it into the thing, Jack. There you go.
Yeah, I got it. It's.
But yeah, they have some people on their roster that make me excited just like looking at it at a glance. But they're a team that they're a new team. They're a team we don't know a lot about. I don't know if you guys recognize most of the players. I didn't see anybody from casting last season. Obviously, I will admit the commercial is my worst known league of the 4. But yeah, I think any of these times we get like a new team like this, there's a lot of new names in here. Hopefully you guys have some information on some people that have played before. But for me, I'm excited to watch them.
I am also excited to watch them too. I think anybody coming in as a sort of newcomer, definitely like I'm always like super excited. I got to scrim like a new team last night, in the throes of COVID. So yeah, it was really fun for me. And then we've got Mazas P6 coming in with the subscription. So speaking of newcomers, welcome. Thank you for being the latest investor in the low budget LCS. Board meetings are at the Denny's in Vermont. You know the one. You can just HUD around back and talk to our buddy Todd. He's the manager and he'll let you in. And as always, pancakes are on us. Did I miss any piece of that? I feel like I did pretty okay on that one.
You got it, yeah.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah,
that was really good.
There we go. And wow, a little bit of booth nepotism here. Vega gifting a tier 1 sub to Valentine.
Nice.
So I'll be totally honest. I was gonna give it to Zodiac, and then I saw Val above without the sub button. I was like, "Oh, Val's on the booth with me. I can't give Zodiac one and not give Val." So.
Yeah, super true. Yeah.
Sorry, Zodiac.
Sorry, Zodiac.
We'll get him next time.
We'll get him next time.
Speaking, actually, good segue here because I was actually about to bring this team up. Devil LOL in chat saying Mighty Panda's getting playoffs bare minimum. Looking at that roster, that is, I think, almost everyone from a couple seasons ago, where they 3-0'd economy finals, the Mighty Pandas roster.
Whoa!
So they're coming back.
Alec Phenom.
Yeah, you got gotta scroll through. There's a lot of teams in commercial. You got Falc Phenom, you got Wildstar,
X the Beard.
The Beard I recognize. There's a lot of players that they've not only like done well in the competitive setting, but they won the whole thing. Granted, that was Econ and that was the season before last, so we don't know what they were up to kind of in between. But I certainly would agree with that idea that like based on that pedigree, this should be, even with like the bump up in competition, should be one of the better teams in the group. I wouldn't hate that argument.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and I want to make sure that I'm moving us along because we have spent like about 50 minutes so far, and we've made it through 3 groups. So we will be moving a little bit quicker. But with the Mighty Pandas, do we feel like they slot into the top of B tier, and perhaps we have to scooch one of these fine teams down, or do we feel like they're so dominant that we can slot them comfortably into S tier?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's a really good question. To me, Subhuman moves to underdog.
Okay.
Because they were on the bubble last split and were right on getting it in, so I can see them getting in, but they haven't done it yet. And then I think that they slide into the top of the bubble teams.
Yeah.
Because it was they were dominant before, but as Leslie said, it was economy, and it was 2 years ago. So there is a little bit of like radioactive halftime. That slowly, the more time you're away from it, the more it goes down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Half-Life.
And
it wasn't quite plumber era, but
not quite the plumber.
It wasn't even close to. You have no idea how good Bondi was.
You have no idea how good Bondi was.
I think Lurkers comfortably for me is in that dark horse spot as well. I believe the captain, and I could be very wrong, Captain Amaristic was also the captain of the Season 8 economy winners in... What's the word I was looking for? Season 8 economy winners with performance anxiety. I think this is almost an entirely new roster, though. But I believe in, like, really solid leaders. So I'm pretty confident in the level they're going to bring to this group, and I think they could definitely surprise a lot of people.
Well, all right.
All right.
It's super exciting. I mean, that's our first group so far, and I wonder if it will remain our first group with 0 people on our favorite tier simply because of how competitive this bubble tier is. And then we've got Subhuman Resources in the underdog tier. LPP Boys, our newcomer team in the Dark Horses tier, also lined up with Lurkers down there. So again, these will be available to you. So if you don't catch it, that's fine. And moving on to Commercial B. What are some of the big things that jump out from Commercial B? It seems like Cuddly League guys are going to need to name their economy and commercial teams so that there's not some confusion there. But
so the first thing I'll point out, because I already know that him's going to put it in the chat. The henchmen, they did drop the henchman moniker. NC Bears actually beating me to it. They, with no high alert main roster, this team has assumed that name. Unfortunately, I just didn't. We weren't quick enough for Bear, unfortunately. They are the reigning champs, and hot take, they should probably be pretty good again this season. They didn't drop a series last season. They 3-0 in finals. They almost lost in semifinals to Italy, but almost doesn't count. So
almost, in fact, doesn't count. How do you keep pressing Control-Shift-I?
It's Control-Shift-C.
How are you doing that?
It's Control-Shift-C. So I'm hitting Control-Shift-V to like paste without formatting, so it changes the colors. But I keep hitting Control-Shift-C because my fingers are so fat and chubby.
Yeah.
Anyway, so high alert up into that favorites tier, a very dominant force.
I'm fine with that. I think that's fine.
I have a hot take, but I will say the CLG team, I'm pretty sure the CLG team is supposed to be CLG Wunderkind.
Wonder what?
Wunderkind. Wunderkind.
Okay. Cool.
Something like that.
Well, there we go.
Close enough.
Wunderkind.
I think Taco Bell McNuggets is the other favorite.
Okay.
For me.
Tell me about Taco Bell McNuggets.
I mean, they were very good last season. I think they came out and punched a lot of teams in the mouth. They swapped their jungle mid and still finished the season very strong. So I think they have shown to be very, very good as a roster. My only question is, I really wish this group had 3 favorite spots. God. Um, my only question is if they'll be able to outperform Team Backflip, because that would have been my like third favorite, to be completely honest. There, because Team Backflip is always so good in the regular season.
Yeah.
And
This group's really hard.
Yeah.
They were in the same
Right,
group.
like-
Hyler and Backflip were in the same group last year too, weren't they?
Yeah, and
I
Oh yeah.
were they?
they were all in Group C.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, those three were. There's some other teams that didn't get in the same group, but those guys are all really good. I think
Mhm.
Backflip.
Mhm.
They got a new mid laner this season, I think from Old Manland, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Guy,
Yep.
Zodex, big like Yas, Yone, kind of wants to hand stiff you, and it's like if you don't ban those champs,
Mhm.
he's probably going to do it. One of those kind of players. Think that kind of rounds out. I mean, Backflip have had one of the best bot lanes in commercial for a while now. In I Enjoy LOL and Zach M, Nuttrack
they're
Swag,
dominant.
rock solid top laner. Gonna weak
What a
side
great
on
man.
his picks, and he's gonna do his job. To me, they're consistently like that top of the groups. Like I would have them over Taco Bell, but I don't hate having them behind.
All right, Vega, be our tiebreaker here. Joining Hyler in the favorite tier, is it Team Backflip or Taco Bell McNuggets?
What if I put a third team in?
Ooh.
Because for 2 seasons I picked the same team, number 1. And the first season I was agreed with. The second season I was told I was crazy. And you're gonna say I'm crazy this season too. I pick Avalanche every year, baby. Number 1 team. Put them at the top. Avalanche number 1 team in commercial every year.
Number 1 in commercial every year is crazy.
Every year in my heart.
Okay, so we've got a third contestant in here.
Can we play rock paper scissors or something?
I have rock paper scissors simulator on my computer.
All right, here's what I'll say. I'm gonna side with Les first, though. I do say Backflip would be my second.
I agree. If I had to pick between those two, Backflip would be my. If Avalanche, for whatever reason, Avalanche was stuck in an airport and only those 2 teams could be picked, Backflip would probably be the one I sided with.
Okay, so it's High Alert, Backflip, then Taco Bell McNuggets, and then TV Avalanche.
Yeah,
well,
I think, and to Silver,
your
to
rating.
the tune of what, to the tune of what Silver Spade is saying, it's a weird situation because I'm like very confident that all 4 of these teams will break into like be in a solid playoff position through like the first 4 weeks. The DVE I think is going to give the most solid, like DVE and God, the name is and Wunderkin are also going to like is also a team that I think could blast it. Maybe a wild card or that 4th seed. I think both of those teams will be fighting around the 5th, 4th seed, and whichever one of those top 4 teams has to play the other 3 earlier in the season, right? I think that's something you definitely get to watch out for. But I think the 3 teams that aren't high alert are like so good that not putting one of them in favorites would be a disservice.
Yeah. I think also,
go ahead.
All of them being in this group makes this group crazy interesting because then all you need is like 1 or 2 surprise teams to be good in the season, and all of a sudden those playoff slots, shrink up really fast.
Yes.
Someone's going to be left crying at fifth place.
Yes.
Or 6th place.
So
speaking of these, commercial.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of these, did I tell you to go ahead and then start talking?
Oh,
yes,
I did do that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, you did.
Do you want me to go ahead or you want me to go?
No, go. Whatever. It's fine. Whatever. It's fine.
I'll go. Just for people new to commercial this season, going back to 5 teams in playoffs from each group, and then 1 wild card. A little bit of a change from what we had last season. Just wanted to like put that out there as we're talking about groups. Like 5 are gonna make it from every group, so even if you're not in that top 4 in like this group of death, I would call it. Like,
yeah,
all you need is a seat at the table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally.
I agree with that.
So I was
So,
gonna transition us to
go ahead.
speaking about speaking of like surprises. We've got a new team in here, which is Big Pharma, which should be great for Sear because he's from Nebraska. He should love these guys. So this is a new team. So like what like do we feel like they're dark horse, maybe underdog, maybe they're contesting in the bubble? What do we see from just what we know about them so far?
I would say bubble. I feel like they're a well-rounded roster from the looks of it. I think they can give people a lot of issues. And I'm gonna be honest, I would put like they're joining the bubble, and so is DVE and Wonder King.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
they're
I agree
like
with that.
everybody, and then I'd say Midwest Scrubs, although they didn't have a perfect season last season. I think they're going to learn from last season and easily be a dark horse to punch into the top 5, or maybe get that wild card. I wouldn't be surprised, right?
Mm-hmm.
This group feels so different. I'm very happy I didn't pull into this group.
Yeah, this group is insane.
Yeah, this group is nuts. I mean, this group is nuts. Yeah, so it feels like it's almost like there's no real underdogs here. There's like a bunch of teams contesting for playoffs though. And then there's this dark horse team in the Midwest Scrubs where it's like, since this group is so volatile, like anything could really happen.
Yeah, if they get 1 or 2 wins,
yeah,
they could ruin the playoff picture for other teams, right?
Yeah.
So I think it'd be really interesting.
Yeah, they could be like what was it, like Kaboom Esports, like back at Worlds all that time ago, and like helping solidify like Cloud9's like run. Like like it could be one of those situations. So yeah, I know, right? I made a volatility reference. Are you guys happy? You guys proud of me? So happy. Anyway, so this feels like our thank you, I appreciate that. So this feels like our commercial B rankings here. We've got High Alert and Team Backflip in the favorites tier, but followed not very far behind by the Taco Bell McNuggets, TV Avalanche, Big Pharma, Detroit versus Everybody, and the Cuddly League guys, Wonderkind in the bubble, and then we've got our dark horse, the Midwest Scrubs. So again, if you don't see this, then if you didn't see this or you miss it, then it will be posted somewhere, and we'll be coming back to it throughout the season. So make sure you're tuning in for the episodes of the booth. We usually do them on Sunday afternoons. Anyway, moving in smoothly over to rounding and finishing our commercial with commercial group C. Let's talk a little bit about these teams here. So we've got another OE team, we've got another Old Man Land team, we've got a hybrid team, we've got a naughty team, and we've got a new team. So we've got a lot of things going on here. So what are some of the first impressions that you guys are having in response to commercial group C?
This is the best way to put it. This group feels like not like lower. I don't want this to come off as like me saying that this is like a group of life or something like that. But whereas last group we had a bunch of teams where we're like very clearly some of these teams, one team is going to take control of the group and be on it. This group I feel less confident of, where I'm like, this is a lot of teams where I feel like any of these teams, it would not surprise me to see them jump out in the season and like make a little run and take control of this group. And I'm less confident to name a team number one in this group. 100%. Yeah, like 100% favorite in this group.
Yeah. You know what? There's a team in this group that I think I have to put favorite simply because of the community. I think it's going to love them, and I think they're going to be fucking hilarious to watch. Naughty Dogs has to go.
Yes. Yeah.
Naughty Dogs has to go into favorite. You have fan favorite Woofy. Someone you don't know is one of the most imagine this. Someone you don't know has been one of the most fun players to watch in the LBLCS since season 3.
Yes. Since the plumber era.
That is
the best people.
Since
the awesome person.
Right. One of the best people. He's a two-time LBLCS champion, both times in the mid lane. He is a monster. He is absolute fucking titan of a laner. And I think you have those two. That's your mid jungle. You have Linoleum, once again, community favorite, one of the most beloved players in LBLCS,
and incredibly handsome.
And drop dead fucking gorgeous too. It's insane.
If you get the opportunity to have drinks with that guy, you take it. And unless your liver is at risk, at which point maybe don't do that to yourself. But
don't. I would be inclined to say that the S tier in this specific group isn't like it's like fan favorite. Like I think
Yeah.
the LBLCS as a league will be worse off if the dogs like go like 0-7.
Yeah.
I feel like the dogs are gonna be the kings of like the 2-0 series. Like I feel like
Yeah.
they're either going to hard stomp their series, or it's gonna be like an early bedtime kind of game. Like with the way he plays, like Linoleum's like a loose cannon in the bot lane. Like you got Happy Death on the hook champs. Like they're gonna be a really fun team, and so, like they're either gonna be super hot or super cold. And it's just like I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
I'm also looking forward to seeing how that goes.
Yeah, sorry. Zelius corrected me. Someone's been the most interesting player to watch since season 1.
Which is truly the Plumber era. There were like 4 people that season. I wasn't one of them, so I'm just talking, I guess. Let's move into starting to slot out and fill out some of these other categories here. So do we feel like there are any particularly like strong bubble contenders or strong dark horses or strong underdog teams?
I mean, I think I would probably put maybe just go down the line of dogs, right? Both Dogs that Bark and LA Tech Bulldogs, like to me, are kind of in that like bubble / underdog tier. You could kind of go either way. Maybe like LA Tech a little above that because they actually did make semifinals in commercial last season. So they played pretty well. They got in, they made it down to the semifinals. They lost to TVA. So they should be again pretty good this season. And then Dogs that Bark have been around for a while. I keep thinking of players like Matt C and Cirquays. They definitely had some pop off games in their time. And so I think all 3 of the dogs. I don't know if I'd say it's going to be a dog dominated playoffs, but I do think that those 3 teams should be like pretty good and in the hunt.
Would you say that this group is a dogfight?
Wait, who did LA Tech lose to last season?
TVA.
TVA. Yeah.
Who else?
Oh, you knew the fucking answer. Get off the damn high horse. High dog? I don't know.
I just looked it up.
I will also say, Dogs that Bark. One of I think a standout player in this group that I think will be very fun to watch is Matt C from Dogs that Bark. Broke the Naughty Dogs, went 6-0, dominated their group in Group A, but they didn't claim every single first team spot that was broken through by Matt C, who had an electric season. It was very, very strong, I think. But I think there's an elephant in the room we have to talk about. I would easily put both of the other dog teams in the bubble. Rito Trad is in this group, y'all.
Rito Trad.
Rito
Trad and the OE Outlaws are a genuinely kind of a very scary team. Perps, Lupin 11, obviously fucking the GOAT Rito Trad, obviously.
Rito Trad starting alert.
Rito Trad starting alert.
Rito Trad
starting, alert. Right? This is not a drill.
This is not a drill.
It's not a drill. Played himself out of commercial last season, but played himself back into commercial. He got back in. I think that came off. That came off wrong. Really excited to see Rito Trad playing this season. I think I am really, really, really excited to see how OE Outlaws plays, and I would put them as a bubble team. They're very solid. Same with Old Man Land. I think they're.
I agree with both those.
I'm
bringing back a couple members from their teams last season.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing Trad. Obviously, I got a bit of a soft spot. He subbed on my TV teams past 2 seasons. Looking forward to seeing him pop back off in the jungle. I think he's a really good player. I think there's also some other good players on this roster. I mean, Kagrin, we've seen
Kagrin
for the Naughty Sharks has done what he needs to do. Captain Ginyu, long time, I believe a top laner in Econ when they're like the Ginyu Force. You got Curbs, who's played for Serenity. Like, there's a lot of players that have been here before, and so I would feel pretty good about the Outlaws as well.
Okay. All right. So we're really filling out this bubble tier here. We've got 3 more teams left to talk about in this group, which is One Tail, a hybrid team, Panther Milk Lifestyle, and a new team, TFF Blue. So anybody have any like jump out thoughts about any of those 3 teams as we start to finish out this ranking?
I don't know a lot about Panther Milk, but they seem like some pretty cool guys. I do know, just based on like scrim rumors that I've heard, that their top laner's sick. So I would put them in like the underdog tier because like I've heard that he's like ripping people's heads off in scrims.
Whoa.
But like I think they're
violent.
newly. Yeah, it's crazy. The guy's he's also I don't know. I have to watch him in the all chat. He's pretty aggressive. But yeah, no, obviously, I'm giving a shout out to Val here, who's top player for that team. But I'm hyped for that team. Obviously, the closer I can get to Jack, I'll do, and this is the closest I could get this season. So we'll continue to work at it.
Yep.
And the closer I get to trying to lure Val into the staff at Milk.
Nope.
Can I work on 2 different staffs?
No.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that.
If we've got joint custody.
Yeah, you get him on.
Gets
Wednesdays through Thursdays. I get weekend privileges. I want to be the fun parent. I want to take him out on the weekends.
For folks who had not yet put things together, Valentine is currently playing on the Panther Milk Lifestyle roster, which, as the name might suggest, is a hybrid team between Panther Core and Buttermilk, which Panther Core being my organization and Buttermilk being Vega's organization. So we've got joint custody over our beloved Valentine here.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not playing solo queue. That's just not true.
Our org is Milk Esports. Buttermilk is a team within Milk.
Okay, excuse me. So the Milky Sports.
Yeah. Milky Sports.
Milky Sports. Oh, I see what's going on there.
Okay.
Get it?
Yeah, I get it now.
Okay.
I think my favorite jokes are the ones that you need to explain to people.
Me too. It makes me really happy when I have to explain the joke.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
I can really tell it's hitting home.
It's really getting me good.
That's really landed.
Let's slot in these remaining 2 teams. That way we can start getting into our everyone's the fan favorite financial. So we've got One Tail and then this new team TFF Blue. So any thoughts that we have about these teams?
I mean, I think for One Tail, it's pretty similar to what we were saying about the Midwest Scrubs in Group A. I think it was. Just have to kind of see like they played last season, didn't quite make playoffs, so it's kind of like it's a lot of the same players. So just like what were we working on in the off season? Like certainly, I think there's room to like scale up. They've got some like solid high point players on the roster, but it's just I'm curious to see in those first couple weeks like what were they workshopping. So I feel pretty good about them in Dark Horse.
Okay, all right. I like Dark Horse teams. I think they're some of my favorites to watch. The ones where like they can easily take games off of like top contenders, even if they might not be like placing the top of the scoreboards themselves. Like I think that they make groups way more interesting to watch. So I'm a big fan of Dark Horse teams. All right, let's slot out this new team, TFF Blue. Where do we feel like they might sit in, just based off of probably what, like an op.gg link and maybe some scrim rumors?
Yeah, I think I would put them in easily put them in a bubble. I think they're very well rounded. They have a Pink Penguin who has been like here and there in LBLCS, but also plays a lot in other leagues and is known as a pretty solid support. So I think it's pretty solid. I think that team will round out nicely in the bubble. I think we could easily see them rise to the occasion in the group.
Okay,
I'd agree with that.
Okay, Vega's nodding, so I'm going to take that to be an acceptable answer. Yes. So we have our rankings for Commercial Group C. In the favorite tier, which might just be fan favorite for this group, is our Naughty Dogs, our beloved alcoholics. Mm-hmm. And then in the bubble tier, we've got Dogs That Bark, LA Tech Bulldogs, OE Outlaws, Old Man Land, the original Geezers, and TFF Blue, which is our new team. So welcome to the LBLCS. The underdogs here, we've got Panther Milk Lifestyle, might be under Cats, I think, at that point. And then we've got our Dark Horse team as One Tail. So that will finish out our Commercial Group rankings as we move into Financial, which is the home for many of us. So let's start talking about Financial Group A. What are the first thoughts that y'all are having?
NLR into S.
NLR into S.
Yeah, it's hard not to put NLR immediately S. I mean, that team was sick last season until playoffs. A lot of returning members.
Yep.
It's hard. I mean, it pretty much writes itself. I think that team's going to be good. And I'll jump to the next. If no one has anything huge to say about it, I think.
I don't agree with them in S. I would definitely put them more in that like I mean top of 8. Like they should be in the playoff picture, but like they're not the team to me that's like the favorite in the group. You know, I don't know if anyone else had like I think Monkeys to me is
That's
like
where I was gonna go
the
next.
strongest
Yeah.
in this group.
Yeah.
Like they were really good last season. Like my team had to face them. It went 2-1. The Wukong Prio in that series was crazy.
I'm certain.
And
I mean, you're playing Monkey.
yeah, well, yeah, right. It just like wasn't planned, but I think that they're better. Like the Rods are good, but so much of their success is on their top laner, whereas I feel
Right.
like Monkeys is just kind of more generally well rounded. And again, this
Mm.
like me and Vega were talking about this earlier, where like to me, I value that like well roundedness. Where I think, assuming it's the same players, Billy Cheese Pizza
it
and
is.
Teddy
Most
Bear
of it
Rocks for Monkeys, like I think that should be the one in this group.
No, I'm fine
I
with that. Yeah.
I think Monkeys and still large rods.
Yeah, that was going to be my S tier. I think those two are the names that jump out. And I last season I think Monkeys had some roster stuff that happened because not the same roster played every week,
Okay.
I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Which if they have the roster that played against Less Force Team and they had at the beginning of last, and that is their consistent roster, I wholeheartedly agree. I think they're the best team in this group. The only reason I would put like almost an asterisk to it is like depending on availability and if they're able to keep the same five together throughout the season.
Yeah, I'm no stranger to like having roster issues, but I guess we'll talk about that when we get to financial B. It's like scheduling is a nightmare. Okay, scheduling just remains to be a nightmare. So we've got these two really bloody teams here in our favorites tier. Where do we feel like the remaining teams kind of fall across the board?
Well, I think speaking of things that you're like no stranger to, maybe you could talk a little bit about Weez and Sons.
I would
Heard
love
there
to.
was some, heard there was some games going on.
My team scrimmed Weez and Sons last night, and this team is really good. It was like it was three games that were like very one sided. Like they slammed us, we slammed them, they slammed us. And so I think that they're going to be incredibly fun to watch. The Weez and Sons bot lane, which I have the most experience with because I was a support player, so I was hanging out with those guys for a little bit. They are a very good, very stable bot lane. I respect any person who can play Thresh well and hit all of the hooks where like the enemy ADC is like, wow, that hook should never hit. Like those are the hooks where it's like I respect the hell out of that. So I'm gonna give some major ups over to Weez and Sons on that one. Welcome to the LBLCS, my friends. You guys are and they're good people too. They were flexible and understanding of some. My teammates love to give me heart attacks, and it's like, oh, is it 7:30? And our scrim's at 7:30. I'm on my way home from work now. So they were flexible and they were cool people. So I think they're a great addition to the league.
Beautifully
Actually,
said.
boy, Alistar mentioned in chat. Just had to bring that up real quick.
I don't know why we're mentioning my Alistars. Actually, I did play Alistar and I went 0-10. So
well, maybe that's
no
why.
way. No way.
Yeah, it was not my finest game. So we've got a couple of other new teams here. We've got Big Dig Summer and Team Secret Lair, and Vega is raising.
I had another team I wanted to talk about. There was another team I wanted to bring.
Go ahead. Bring the passion.
I really want to talk about naughty question marks because as someone who's known Brienne or Brikachu for people who don't know for a pretty good amount of time, I am so hyped for that roster. Outside of obviously Brikachu being on the roster, you got Gatatsu, you got Isai, you got Wagabu, you got Evadingus, a lot of names people know, and who?
No, I just said Evdingus. Just had to emphasize.
Evdingus. That roster looks so fun. And for people who don't know Brikachu, I just want to give a shout out to her. She just recently, I think a couple months ago, finished her Emerald on every single role challenge on her stream. So very good player, very understanding of like each role in the game. It's going to be their first season playing in competitive. This roster looks super fun. I think got to talk about what we talked about in commercial. Not only do I think this roster will be pretty good on a bubble like kind of area of this. I also think they're going to be a fan favorite. I think there's a lot of people on this roster that people like, a lot of fun people to watch. I'm really hyped about that roster.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And I mean, I can't even get Emerald on my main role, so I have a lot of respect for that.
Nice.
So we've
Good
got.
job,
Let's see
Jack.
here. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We've got half of our team slotted in and half remaining to be slotted. So we've got Anima, Ghosts, and then the other two new teams, Big Dig Summer and Team Secret Lair. Let's start with the new teams a little bit here. What are we seeing from the OP.GGs? What are we hearing about from the Scrim rumors? What do we see?
I'm trying to pull up the Big Dig Summer roster because I did scrim them about a week and a half ago. They, I think from what I can remember, their bot lane was pretty solid. Was kind of like the strong point of the roster. Like we ultimately won the scrim, but it was also, from what I gathered, like kind of like their first scrim of the season. Actually, maybe I'm completely misremembering because looking at the OPGG, it's the top side that are the highest ranked players. Yeah, I mean, I thought that they were fine. Like I think we won the scrim 2-1, but it wasn't what was it called? Like I didn't feel like they were
Clean.
ever. Yeah, like I mean, they were kind of sloppy games for sure, but like it was also like in early in the off season, like we're still gearing up. I think they'll be okay, solid. I think it's a hard group, kind of like we're already talking about. So to me, they'd be kind of in that like underdog tier, with like the ability to move up.
Okay. All right. Maybe top of the underdog tier there. Val, Vega, any thoughts on that before we move on to Team Secret Lair?
No, same. I had a similar experience. One of our teams scrimmed them recently. And pretty much similar experience. I thought their bot lane kind of showed out. They looked pretty good. But same thing, early in the off season, it's hard to tell really anybody. And a lot of teams are going to ramp up a lot over these next 2 to 3 weeks as they start scrimming teams that are in the league and getting an idea of what they're playing against and stuff. So I'm fine with that. Underdog feels accurate for where they are right now. And I don't know, we haven't seen them in competitive yet. And obviously, once you get on stage and you're playing the game's a lot different than, how scrims go sometimes. Not for some players like Jack, who's the consummate professional, 0-10 in scrims, 0-10 on stage.
I can do it all, baby.
I'm sorry. This is my first shot at Jack of the Year.
I was waiting. I let my guard down.
Yeah.
I know. I lasted a while. We're a decent
Wow.
amount into this. I'm over an hour into this. But no, I'm excited about them.
Yep. And I'll say for Team Secret Lair, they have some like obviously this is going to be a really random tangent, but it's so I can use this specific term in once again in competitive Pokemon. There's a thing where they call it sheet looking, where you just look at someone's record or how well they've done over a course of seasons, and you just say, you just make your whole opinion off of that. Um, so just sheet looking at Team Secret Lair, they have some insane players on this roster. So I think the team's highs could be very, very high. But you never know how they'll mesh together. You never ever know. So I'd say I'd probably put them in the bubble.
Okay.
Personally.
Team Secret Lair in the bubble. I'm not hearing any major
I'm fine with that.
kind of
I
complaints
think Val
about
did
that.
a great job.
Yeah, that was a good explanation.
I think maybe moving on to our furry friends in the Panther Court Ghost side of things, then I think that this is a dark horse team. I think that this is kind of this is a bit of a combo team. Some players from Highlanders and some players from last season's Ghost rosters. That way, I think that the players on this team are insane, and I think that if they can lock in and gel, then I think that that's going to be. I think they're going to be a menace.
Yeah.
Like I think they're going to be contending for top 3, top 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also yet to be proven, right? So I think that definitely in the dark horse side of things, Monai my goat.
Yes, yeah. I'll go on like a 2-second tangent about Monai. That guy was a very good jungler at the executive level, but now I believe he's moving back to his innate home in the mid lane. I'm very excited. He has the coolest Azir I've ever seen, and they also have a top laner who is making his return to the LVLCS, and I am excited to see how he does. I'm sure he will make it through every single game. He won't leave
the entire
a single
game.
one.
Yep.
The entire game, yeah.
The entire game.
Yes. The whole game.
And then finishing out this group, we've got Anima Gaming. So where do we feel like they fall into this category here?
I would say underdogs. They were a team that took a couple series last split in financial. They were a little bit off the playoffs. I think they went 3-5 total last split. Decent amount of that core's back, but
were they the team that High Alert played against when the thing happened?
I will tell. Yeah,
they're based off the Bears chats. I'm going to assume yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, yeah. I personally think that they're great because we lucked into playoffs there. But Anima, got a lot of high hopes this season. No, I mean, you could definitely see that like the potential was there. Like there were series where you were like beating High Alert. High Alert was surging at that time, where a team was favored. So them being able to take those games, even push it to that point, means a lot. And hopefully a year in, that roster's now, got some games under their belt. They're more, got an idea. But it's a tough group. So I think underdog's probably where to put them in here.
Okay. All right. So that finishes out Financial A, and that officially makes us more than halfway through our groups, and it's only been an hour and a half. So we've got our favorites here in Monkeys and Needlessly Large Rods, followed pretty closely by Wheeze and Sons, Naughty Question Marks, and Team Secret Lair. So a couple of new teams coming in there. Honestly, like if they weren't already good, I would put Wheeze and Sons as a dark horse, but that's neither here nor there. And then another new team, Big Dig Summer, coming in to join Anima Gaming and our underdogs, and we've got the Panther Corps Ghosts as our dark horses. So that is Financial Group A. Let's cruise right along and start looking at Financial Group B, which is the home of both Lest Force and me. So before we get into all of that fun stuff, what are the first,
Less Force than I.
Less Force. No, the home of I? No, it's the home of me. It's the home of Less Force and me.
Less Force and
no, that's not how it goes. No. Okay, do not come for me with grammar. No. Do not come for me with grammar, okay?
All right.
It is the home of Less Force and me, not the home of I. The home of I.
Yeah, like, it's the home of me. It sticks in your mouth of it. Like,
neither of those sound right to me.
Right,
you should have just said me and Less Force to live here.
Yeah, I would have preferred that.
Well, I'm sorry that I didn't structure my sentences to your liking, Your Highness. Anyway,
I like that you tried your best.
Thank you.
You did try your best, so that's what matters.
You got to the
finals of sentence structure.
It's correct. It's correct.
Guys, can we gaslight Jack into thinking he was wrong here?
Did you say the finals of? Oh my God. Okay,
you got to the finals of sentence structure. I wouldn't say you quite pushed it over the edge, but you were close.
So, second place.
Oh my!
Now that I've won
my favorite place,
the single off-season for fun tournament, I will ridicule Jack all year
and made a trophy about it. Like that's
a real trophy. This is a real trophy.
Jesus.
All right, Financial B. This is my and Lest Forced's home. So structured it even differently this time. So what are some of the first thoughts that jump out here?
None in our walls is S tier.
Yeah.
It's not really particularly close.
I don't think that's gonna shatter anybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's my second take. Which may shatter some, but I think the Five Musketeers are probably my second favorite as well.
Okay. Vega, Lest Force, what do you guys think about the Five Musketeers being in this second S tier slot?
I mean, personally, I would put the Five Musketeers above the Naughty Narwhals. The fact that I don't know what their acronym, TFM, didn't make playoffs last season, was kind of insane because the way that they kind of like play as a team, I feel like is really unparalleled compared to other teams in this, ELO bracket. And I think they were just kind of a byproduct of Financial only being a 4-team playoff last season. So, four for each group. So to me, like, I was trying out for another team this offseason, played against them, and like just the way that they move around the map together, like I think they're better than Naughty. And like that's not disrespect to Zebra or Ruffian, like they're super good players. But I just think that unit, it seems like they've been playing together for so long that like I would put them number one.
Vega, you want to be a bit of a tiebreaker here? Or would you like
This
to
one
throw
goes-
a wrench in the machine again?
No, I do think that those two are the top two. I don't know. Les just so good at explaining a point that, like,
Yeah,
I immediately
well
when Val said, I was like, yeah, Ruffy and Lover, I'm on board. And then Les does like the saying where he just like silk is just flowing out of his mouth, and you're just like, yeah,
golden tongue.
that is good. That's a good point. Like if Ruffy had a podcast, or if Les had a podcast talking to me about like sports betting, I would be like, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm taking that 26 leg parlay.
Do not recommend.
I'm doing it.
That's a very good idea.
I think I'm going to lean Five Musketeers. I do agree with a lot of the points that Les Force made, but I do think that this is, to me, the clear top two. I do think that there is this in a small gap, and then the rest of the teams that'll be in the bubble. Yeah, Val didn't really go on like a rant, so I can't really.
I mean, you want me to?
I'm not saying to. I'm just saying that. I mean, I'm always down, but no, I agree with Les Force there. I think those points are solid. Also, Duolingo. I was like one of my favorite players. So
fair.
I can go a rant. Maybe just not about narwhals, because I mean I could talk about narwhals. Maybe not a rant about narwhals, but I can talk to you for a while about the live wires.
Okay.
I was gonna say let's talk about a real team. Yeah, talk to us about the live wires.
So live wires withhold. They think about it this way. They've got a top 3 jungler in their group. They've got
number one jungle. Number one jungle financial. I know that this may seem like a thing, like playing towards, but like you talk to every person who scrims and plays against Les Force, they're like, that guy is. We have to game plan against him. We have to like plan how we play them out. I without a doubt, consistency. I value consistency so much higher than like peaks, and I think that Les Force consistently over a season and has been, and pretending like he hasn't been, is the best jungler.
Wait. Hold on. So if we're talking about consistency, Zebra's been a top 3 jungler in financial and executive.
Zebra's been like a top
6
1
seasons in a row
in financial and that. And then also Grant is now in this group. So like let's be really clear about what's happening here.
Les Force clears easily. I don't even think it's close. I don't even think it's a conversation. Those guys had to run away from Les Force last year. They couldn't even stay in the same thing with them. And now they come crawling back to financial. Les Force domain, number 1 reigning jungler. Until he's dethroned, he's number 1.
Wow.
Who played in the All-Star game last year? It wasn't them. It was Les Force.
Well, I have to ride for my boy Grant. And I also have to ride for my boy Zebra.
They're good.
Those are Grant is my jungler this season. Zebra is my jungler in the past, both in executive when we went to finals and in maybe even financial. I don't even remember what happened. So I'm riding or dying for my PC boys. Les Force, love, peace and love. But we just ban Sedge and keep it moving.
That was the old Les Force, though.
That's the old Les Force.
Well, and I feel like I guess I have to like chime in a little bit, right? And like I said, in our booth DM that like the 2 best junglers I've ever faced are Gran Torino and Zebra. So like the fact that I have to be in a group with them like kind of sucks because like that just means it's like harder. But last time I faced Gran Torino, like the team could only really function if I was playing Sejuani, and I think I've gotten a lot better at jungle since then. And so like Gran Torino, again, I think he's probably the best jungler I've had to face, but I think it won't be as one-sided as it was the last time we played. And Praetorian putting it out there. Like, I hate this group, the group draw that we got for sure.
Yeah, I mean this group draw I think is very exciting. So that was, but yes, those points were well argued. I definitely feel like live wires slotting in.
Actually,
go ahead.
Live Wire's number 1 in this group. They should be a lock.
Oh my god. All right. Well, then where do the Narwhals and 5 Musketeers go? Are Narwhals now top of A?
They're both fighting in bubble.
They're both fighting in bubble.
Yeah. Live Wire's number 1. I'm full in stock on it.
And this is just like really hard as this is where you like draw the line as like Les Force the player and Les Force the booth analysis or analyst, right?
The glue guy.
If I don't argue for if I don't agree with Vega, then I'm like flaking on myself. But it's also like if I put myself one. It goes against that like the silk weaving that I was just doing for the Five Musketeers, right? And Zebra, and like we haven't even gotten to the Highlanders, so like
That's true.
it's a hard group.
That's true. It is the jungle pool in this group is pretty insane. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm pretty excited for it, and yeah, I mean we've talked about the junglers. We mentioned his name, Grant Areno, coming in as the Panther Corps Highlanders jungler. So that's my team, just in case anybody was wondering. So yeah, I mean I'm super excited for us this season. We've got a couple of returning people. The Highlanders had a rough season last season because of like a bunch of scheduling issues, and we just couldn't we couldn't find a time to play. So basically every week was a new roster, which was really fun because you get to talk to a lot of people, but it's not as great for competitive edge. This season, we've been finding more time to play, so I am excited for us. So as Gran Torino said, like, yep, like we're still gelling, and so I feel like there's I think maybe like lower in bubble tier for us. Like I'd say maybe
I think definitely in the bubble tier. Definitely in the bubble tier.
Like I said, there will be series that you guys win purely based off of Gran Torino kind of 1v9ing. I know he's like big time player in other leagues as well. Won season 11 of Financial with Howdy Chef. Like he's really good, and so like I won't be surprised if you guys end up like top 2 just off of that.
Yeah, Grant.
Yeah, I think this roster's good.
And basically, I enjoy any teammate where I can be like an enabler and just be like, hey, we should do something insane, and they're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna do something insane, and then we go. And so the support jungle synergy is there. All right. So we've solided half the team, so that leaves us with the 2 new teams, Beer and Snacks and Talking Ben Esports. So where do we feel like the remaining teams here? Do we want to go with the people we know, Beer and Snacks and Talking Ben, or do we want to go with some of these newcomers in Omega Gaming and TDS?
I mean, I guess I could quickly talk about TDS a little bit.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with the captain,
Okay.
Duolingo Owl. I think pound for pound, probably the next best, like if we're saying Naughty Narwhals have the best AD carry in Ruffian, I think Owl is like, I don't know if it's 1A, 1B, but it's like pretty damn close. Like I think, because I've been playing with Owl this summer in another league, and he is like so good. Like despite if the jungler is just like spam ganking and like making life living hell, like he is always finding a way to keep himself even in the game, and he's just pumping the damage. Like he's doing what the AD carry needs to do, and he just like doesn't care about KDA. And so like I think that that's a really dangerous for other teams to have. He kind of reminds me of like maybe like a bougie Ev Dingus if you've been following Financial for a while.
A bougie Ev Dingus. Okay.
That's a great explanation.
So like I think in looking at the rest of the roster, I'm not as familiar with like the rest of the players. But I would probably put them at like underdog to start and then kind of see like where we go.
Okay. So you feel like TDS is in the underdog category over here.
Yeah, that's where I would put them looking overall at the roster.
I think that is fine.
Ruffian asking where the Narwhals ranked. The rankings are on the screen, so you can look and see.
He's audio only.
Oh, he's audio only. What an interesting person.
We just lie to him and say that they're 7th.
Yeah, we put you guys bottom of underdog. Just I don't know. Your bot lane seems a little sketch, so. So we've got Omega Gaming, Beer and Snacks, and Talking Ben. Talking Ben Esports is captained by Beaver, who might have been one of the only AD carries who gave me and Ramcannon trouble in economy when our first season when we went to finals. We did make exec finals together, Ruffian. So yes, you guys are A2. So I'm gonna give them a little bit of love over here. I'm gonna go ahead and say that maybe kind of bottom of bubble tier. I think that feels like a comfortable place where I can put them.
I think I'm fine with that.
Okay. And then that just leaves us Beer and Snacks and Omega Gaming. Either of you have strong thoughts?
I think with Beer and Snacks, they were kind of like one of those teams last season. I think similar to like the PC Ghosts, where they were like they were in executive because there was like one player that kind of tipped them over the point cap. Like they probably would have played in financial if they had the opportunity. And so like now that they're here in financial, I think Beer and Snacks should have a much better. I think they picked up a series or two in exec, which is really hard.
Yeah.
I'd probably put them in underdog to start. I think it's Izero is like their top tier player. Pretty strong overall roster. Like there's no one who's like glaringly standing out as like, oh, you gotta expose this guy. So I'd probably put probably like below TDS to start.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think that's accurate. And yeah, like you said, took 2 games at executive last year. Should put them at least in like pretty competitive in financial.
Yeah. It's always nice when a team will like stick together around a player that has kind of bumped over an elo cap, but it does make the competitiveness a little bit trickier. So it's nice to see
tree
them.
gang moment.
And yeah, tree gang moment for real, which everybody loves tree gang. I don't know a single person who does not love tree gang. If you don't love tree gang, I don't love you. That's it. That's just it.
That's fair.
It's pretty fair. Except that they play Ezreal Yumi, and like that just grinds my gears.
Okay. It's just getting worse.
So that just leaves us with Omega Gaming, who are another new coming team to the LBLCS.
For me, I mean, Omega, I'm going to put Dark Horse, not just because purely off of like knowledge of the team. Look at OP.GG. I mean, I think they'll be a competitive team decently, but I don't have any scrim knowledge of them, and also just like their new team. None of the players really jump out to me as names I know from other teams as like that I've seen before. Maybe Less Force knows. But yeah, for me right now, Dark Horse team of this group, by ranking, could punch up, could be a team that gets into that bubble tier. And a pretty good chunk of teams out of the groups here. I believe 4 of each group get into playoffs, right? Yeah. So, there aren't a ton of spots, and there are some good teams in this group. It's just a very tough group. Pretty much all the financial groups are pretty tough. But you're a new team, so we don't know.
Very true. So that rounds out our financial B rankings. So we've got the live wires and S tier as favorites. Then we've got the bubble tier with the 5 Musketeers, the Naughty Narwhals, Panther Corps, Highlanders, and Talking Ben Esports. TDS, one of our new coming teams, joins Beer and Snacks in the underdog tier, and Omega Gaming, another one of our newcomer teams, sitting sneakily in that purple Dark Horse tier. So I am excited to see what happens. I think Vextrack said it like this is the Thunderdome group. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to play in it and also to just experience the thunderness. Let's cruise along and get into the second half of financial here with financial groups C and D. So we're starting off with financial C, and we've got another couple of new coming teams to this group, as well as some mainstays of the LBLCS scene. So what are your first kind of thoughts off rip here?
This is the one time that I am overly confident. Maybe not overly confident, but very confident. I would put Buttermilk as a favorite in this group.
Okay.
I think this roster last year, the 5 players that are playing now, went 4-0 in regular season, or 3-1 in regular season to end out last year. Lost in first round of playoffs to Volatility, who went to the finals.
Okay.
And won the High Alert off-season tournament without dropping a game. So that team's played together now for 4 years, except for their mid laner, who's now played together with them for 6 months. So a team that's played together a long time. They've played in other leagues. They've won Risen. They've won EAL in their brackets. So very confident in that team. I think there's teams in here that can challenge them. But I think just going off base, them having played together for so long and their form being relatively competitive in playoffs last year, I would put them as favorites here.
Okay. Bear TV coming in with the hashtag get milked. Thanks, Bear. Yeah. Having that type of experience is and like kind of like gelledness is pretty indispensable, especially in a competitive 5s environment. Less Force, are there any sort of major thoughts that you had kind of coming into this group?
So like how do I put this? This group to me feels like there's a clear top 3, and I don't know if we can have 3 teams in the S tier, because it's like that argument of like, if there's 3 favorites, are there really any favorites type of deal. Buttermilk is one for sure. They are really annoying. Like, I'm sorry, Vega, but like just
it's fine.
Just the actual like the team gelling, it's just like pretty like annoying to play against. Especially like in that invitational tournament, like well, there was complicating factors in that game, but like I did not enjoy my time in that game. I think buttermilk for sure should be up there. I think you have to put fried chicken kind of in the S tier. Like they've won financial several times before. They have a really strong bot lane. Arcadius like dominated financial the last time that he played. Played in financial. I don't think he got first team 80 carry, but he like definitely should have. Not exactly sure who's the mid laner. Actually, I mean their mid laner, if I'm looking at the OP correctly, like that should be their best player on paper. So like that should be a really strong team. Vextrack's also pretty good support. And then the third team to me, again, no bias, would be team volatility. Like to me, that is like A, B, C, whatever order you want. Like that should be the three in this group. For that team, you've got youngster Joey, longtime player, several all stars. You got Papa Doge, Voodoo Mama Juju, again, longtime players in this league. And then you got the return of Breadwater, who is like, I think it was 2 seasons ago. He went the first 3.5 weeks without dying a single time in playing both games. Like he had a 72 KDA. Like that's nuts.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Super like skilled player. And like, I think he will probably gap in mid lane just specifically. Like, I'm not saying TV's going to win every game, like, but I think mid lane is going to win every lane. Unless the other junglers like come and like make life a living hell for Bedwater, because he is so good. And then top lane, you've got the owner of High Alert, Bear TV, coming over to be a little bit of a neutralizer. He might hate the he might hate the role, he might hate the label, but when you got carries everywhere else, like your job is just to keep things afloat, do what you got to do, and I think he's pretty good at it. So to me, I think that's the top 3.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think that definitely in this group, those are the 3 favorites. Like, if any of those 3 teams at the end of the season were like, that team had the highest record and went out, I don't think anybody would be surprised. Yeah, I totally agree with most of what you said. And also, I think it's super interesting. Bear being on volatility is going to be a lot of fun to watch this year, especially with Youngster Joey. Because Youngster Joey was one of the best, and I don't want to say underrated, because people know that they're good, but still, like, I feel like, when you're on volatility, everybody talks about less force, the greatest jungler to ever live. And Youngster Joey's really good too. Youngsters are really, really, really good. So I think that that team could be really sick by the end of the year.
You're telling me I left and came back and Vegas still doing tricks on it?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Look, man, I just
the room is starting to stink.
Okay. I'll say this. Lesfort is the number 1 jungler in financial B. Now, if he was in C, I don't know if
That's crazy. I mean, that's just
he gets frustrated by our hive mind at Buttermilk.
Yes.
But our whole strategy is try to stop Lesfort from taking the game over. So yeah, I think I agree with that. And obviously, Team Fried Chicken, their previous winners, and moving back down from executive, I believe, last season. They're going to be sick. I think anybody who sees that name knows that they're probably going to be competing for a title or close to competing for a title by the end of the year. That's just the expectation with them. So yeah, I think those top 3 are fun.
Yeah, I think financial is a very competitive league, just sort of across the board. Like it is difficult to beat the top teams in financial. But I don't know, maybe that's just my experience. Anyway, we've got a couple more teams that are familiar to the LBLCS. We've got Old Man Land, the Elderly Zoomers. We've got the CLG Plunderers and the Gentlemen with a J. So any kind of thoughts about these 3 teams before we move on to our newcomers?
Yeah, I'll go. Go. You go with CLG. That's what I was going to mention. But go ahead.
Okay, yeah. CLG Plunderers is a very much kind of a who's who rust with some new blood sprinkled in. I don't know, sprinkled in. I don't know
Sprinkled.
You've got Camped. You've got Illyrius, and a top laner whose name will forever scare me in Hearted, as well as new players to the LBS, Odan, Inked, and Rigor Mortis. All of these guys look to form a very solid roster, and even it looks like Alurius and Reddit have swapped roles as well. So I think it will be really interesting to see how well this team meshes and how strong they come out, because I think that's going to be important in this group. If they can come out and show that they're not really scared of anybody, that they'll be able to take a fight to anyone, we're going to see them give a lot of issues to everybody in this group.
Yeah, I think that it's like being able to kind of come in and give some trouble in groups. I think that that's always like I think a little bit like the kind of dark horse thing, where it's like it just makes the league a little bit more interesting. So where do we feel like these plunderers are going to kind of land?
Bubble easily, I'd say.
Yeah, I think probably like
I think that's fair.
Probably like in that four spot would be like what I would say. So like maybe just under TV. I got the owner of Old Man Land in the DM saying that OMLEZs, the elderly Zoomers, cracked top 3, and he's guaranteeing it.
Oh wow, guaranteeing and on what?
I think
Guarantee.
I think I'm confident saying they're top 8.
Well, that's very
bold.
confident.
I don't want to make a bold claim here, but I'm pretty sure by the end of the season they'll be in the top 8.
So what is the owner of OML staking this on?
In the group.
Like guaranteeing based like and what if not? What if not top 3?
Well, so I know that they also played in that invitational tournament this summer, and that was like I guess their first crack at like competitive play, and they did come in second. They lost to Buttermilk. They played like a very, at least from what I can remember, they played like the classic like protect the president style of play, where it's like Jinx on AD carry, tank jungle, tank support. You're just trying to keep that AD carry alive. He's in the DM saying that they're undefeated in scrims. Of course, we don't have access to those, the scrim records to fact check that, but we'll take that.
0 to 0 is undefeated.
It is undefeated.
Yeah, if they've never scrimmed anyone, that would still be correct. They could also have.
I mean, on paper, like I see like a lot of like kind of high emerald caliber players. The 80 carries D3 looks very good on paper, playing like Jin, Jinx, the Ashe, playing a lot of the meta picks. I certainly think they could be good. I just think it's like a hard group, so like, I couldn't put them into top 3 today. But if there wanted to be an argument over them versus the Plunderers, like I think there's a discussion to be had, and like I don't know which way that coin lands.
Yeah, I agree.
So it sounds almost like this might be sort of in the dark horse category almost, although potentially just like good enough where we're comfortable just putting them in bubble. But dark horse in the sense where like if they punched up into that top 3, we wouldn't necessarily be surprised.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah. Like they have the names and like rigs to where like I could see that team being very good.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's slot in the gentlemen and then move on to our 2 new teams before we move to Financial D and close out Financial. So where do these gentlemen with J's, which as a J name myself, can appreciate that. Where
their whole team
where are we slotting them in?
Like what?
Their whole team is J-name.
Is it really?
Hold on.
Yeah, like they all name change to like start with a J. It's pretty baller, and you guys will see it when
that should be
when the roster sheet comes out. It's like a power move for sure.
Definitely.
As far as the gentlemen, like LBLCS community should love this team. They've been gone for a while, but if you remember back to season 10 of Commercial, I think that was like, was that pre-Vegas? No, that was for Vegas' first season in the league. That was the Reverie Sparked, the 16 seed in Commercial, who took down the number 1 team in Commercial that season, got all the way to the semifinals. Their miracle run did come to an end against High Alert that season, but they were super fun to watch that season. And so I'm excited to see them back. As far as like where they stack up, I think they have a tough group draw for sure. Mm-hmm. And so like I would feel good about like underdog to start. But I know that group's played together like a hell of a lot. I mean, that's at least a year and a half since that, playoff moment. So that synergy like could propel them higher than that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching that. Like that was one of the most hyped I've ever seen the chat moments, like that 16v1. That was really crazy.
Yeah. They had the entirety of the league behind them, and I think it's one thing to have the casters on your side. Getting the chat on your side is fucking hard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
them being rallied so hard behind Reverie Sparked is really has kind of elevated how excited teams are, how excited the community is, and how excited other teams are for Reverie Sparked, aka the Gentleman, to return.
And I think that us putting them in the underdog category is a little bit less of like, oh yeah, they're kind of like a B tier team, and a little bit more of like, no, these are the underdogs. Like underestimate them because that is where they get their power. So I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see them return and really rev up this financial group C, who's yet to be rounded out by these remaining two new teams, Dynasty Stray and Gerxt Crew. Quite the name. Jev Up is now the okay. So either of these two teams leap out to any of you three for any particular reason?
Good question.
I mean, when I was looking, I didn't really recognize any players from either roster, so it was like hard to like. I don't have any like prior scrim knowledge or prior LBLCS experience. I believe it's Dynasty Stray. They've got a couple. They've got a couple diamond players, I think, in the bot lane. It's like they look like they could certainly be pretty good to start. Maybe like just purely based off the ranks. Again, like that's kind of what you're going off of when you haven't seen these guys before. I'd probably give the slight edge to Dynasty Stray just for that reason.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Financial is the biggest division we have this season, so there's a lot of new teams, a lot of new faces, a lot of stuff like that. So these are definitely in the underdog dark horse tier where we don't know as much about them, just purely OP.GG watching and pretty much what Les Sports said about Dynasty. They look, out of the three, to be the biggest threat.
Yeah. So where do we feel like do we feel like Gerxt Crew fall behind them into the bubble tier, or do we feel like they drop down and join the Gentlemen in B tier? Maybe they're dark horses. Where do these Gerxt Crew fall?
Go ahead. That's what you were saying.
To me, I would put the Gerxt Crew in dark horse. They kind of look about on par with Old Man Land to start, and again, like come out towards the start of the season and we find out that these guys have been playing together for 6 years.
Right.
We're having like a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got our financial group C. We've got Buttermilk Lifestyle and Team Fried Chicken on our favorites tier. Team Volatility not very far behind them at all, with the CLG Plunderers and one of our newcomers, the Dynasty Stray, in that bubble tier. We've got the Gentlemen as the underdogs, capital T, capital U, and capital J. And then we've got a couple of dark horse teams. One of them a newcomer to the LBLCS, the Gerks Crew, and then another one, the Old Man Land Elderly Zoomers. So let's go ahead and finish up financial with financial group D before we move up to the big dogs up in executive. So any thoughts about financial group D sort of as we start looking at these teams right off the bat?
I think it's going to be a really fun group to watch. There's a lot of really awesome people in this group that are really fun, even from just content wise, really fun to watch. There's have a couple orgs in this group also. Fielding teams, so it'll be a lot of fun. Sensei Randall's was I was going to start with him. I'm not putting him in favorites, but I think it's a bubble team because in financial last year, they were a team that definitely was surprising to play against. Not because like you didn't think they were good or anything like that, but very unorthodox team at times. Definitely skill checks you. I think they're a team that is a lot of fun to play against. Really nice people. And a mainstay now. And they were similar in Group A last year to when we talked about Anima and things like that, where they were a team that had huge playoff implications throughout the season. Taking games off random teams. So I think they should be probably in the bubble tier in this group.
Okay.
I will say, go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say, I think Team Chaos is the same. They have like if there's any team that has a great story, it's them. Team Chaos is literally 4 out of the 5 members from Team Chaos were pinged in the free agent recruitment chat. They were basically, Praetorian can basically take the credit for this team. He was like, "Hey, you guys are all like four different signups, all across kind of the map of Summoner's Rift. You guys should make a team together." The funniest part about this is that he was like, "You guys should sign up for commercial." They got a fifth and signed up for financial, and they've broken in. They have. I think there's a lot of, even if it's not as big as some other team, there's some community investment in their success, and I'm very excited to see how that goes. I think they could really shock some people. I think they could really make a stamp on their place in the LBLCS.
Yeah, they're certainly the one direction of the LBLCS, and Praetorian is their Simon Cowell. Um, and like as
That's right.
somebody who like joined the LBLCS, grabbed 4, 5 free agents, and made a new team, and then now it's exploded into this huge thing. You know, it is a great story, and I sincerely hope that this team finds at least some success. If you go to playoffs and you get 3-0'd in finals, then like you guys are on the right track, I think maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, excited to see where that team lands. Less Force,
I mean,
what are some of your kind of thoughts as we move into this group?
Yeah, I think like overall with this group, it's pretty similar to like what we were saying about like Group C, where like I feel like it doesn't have the like where we saw in Group C of Financial, where it's like Buttermilk, KFC, TV, these like titans at the top. I think there's a lot of room to like claim that spot on the throne, and like maybe this is a really bad segue, but I think I would start with the TV Rat Knights.
Okay.
It's a lot of the core from TV Money Moose, who did make semifinals last season.
Okay.
You got Zodiac in the mid lane, Memer Six, who I think is the best support in Financial. I'll stand on that pretty easily. Like Jack's
nice.
flipping me off on the
Flipping him
camera.
off
Like
on the
he's so good. Like we no pun intended with the name. We meme a lot, but like he is legitimately super good at
Yeah.
support.
Yeah. He
And
is.
then
He
they
is actually a very good support. I have no ground to stand on to flip
yeah.
you off on that.
And then they got Just Bow, who was the ADC sub for Money Moves. He played some last season. Um, Top side they brought in Zax from High Alert, longtime jungler there. I think this team like should be the best in the group. That's not just because they are a TV team. I just think they got the best players, so I would put them at the top of this. I don't know if anyone disagrees.
I
No.
do not disagree.
I also
they're
don't.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Zodiac is a very good stable mid laner, very good on those control mage picks like Hui and Victor. Justbo is a really good AD carry, and you're right, Memer Sticks is a really fantastic support. So when you have like an AD carry who can be activated by a good quality support, then I think that makes for a really
Yeah.
lethal bot lane. So I'm excited to see what happens here in Financial D for them. So that do we feel like there are any other teams that are good contenders for this other favorite slot, or do we feel like the remaining teams kind of fall into the yellow, green, purple categories here?
High Alert Nightmares, I think, is the other favorite of this
Yeah,
group.
I think they
I
would
think
be.
their solo lanes and their support is where I have a lot of confidence. Clickbait God
Mm-hmm.
and SE to Banana Man have been really good laners for a long time in the
Mm-hmm.
LBLCS. And Necrotic Balrog, I think, is going to come in swinging this season. There's a jungler on this team. Jack, I need you to be calm.
Okay.
But one of their junglers, I don't know if he's the starting jungler or sub jungler, but Star64 is their jungler. Maybe most well known for doing certain things to Jack in economy finals.
Okay.
Being on a team. I think, and has kind of been dormant for the last few seasons. I think is going to come back swinging. But also, I think Dot 85 is going to be jumping from economy to financial. He's the guy I think that this team is going to hinge on to make the jump, because this group is chock full of great ADCs. It's going to be a challenge, but I do think Dot might be one of the best up to it.
Mm-hmm. It's such a bummer that Grand Ponta's team is in Wait, is Grand Ponta's team in commercial or financial?
Economy.
Oh, in economy. It's such a bummer that he's there, because otherwise that would have been a really cool like callback matchup. But yeah,
Yeah.
Starster 64 3-0'd me in finals in economy way back when. which began my penchant to get to finals and somehow managed to just lose. I think I've got like 4 second place finishes in this goddamn LBLCS, but
Yeah.
you know what? We're still kicking. It's the spirit of resilience. I don't know. I'm gonna move us on. So, Vega, do you want to take some time to talk about strawberry milk?
Yeah, absolutely. Strawberry Milk, I think it's gonna be a really fun roster this year. I think they'll be sounding the underdog tier this year. But just to shout out some people on that roster. If you're a TikTok watcher for a lot of League of Legends content, you probably know their top laner, Rice Bunny. She's a Fiora player, does a ton of content around that. If people don't know, Strawberry Milk is completely an all-female streamer team. So it'll be a lot of fun. They're making a lot of content around their journey this year, through practices and like playing in a league and stuff like that. So that'll be a lot of fun. And their AD carry Sophia Bot. I mean, she's a diamond ADC. She's pretty sick. So definitely not like slouches. All of them are, decently highly rated players. But yeah, I think they'll be a lot of fun. But this is their first competitive experience, so I think underdog tier is probably the right place to have them in this group. And yeah, that's pretty much it for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting. I think it's great that we're getting some. I mean, this like what? It's like the first like really big like league TikToker that has started making content around the LBLCS. So I think that I'm pretty excited to see how that has an effect on our numbers here, and maybe we'll have to start splitting these preseason shows into two episodes because we're currently over the 2 hour mark. So
I would say definitely the first really competitive content creators that we've had, which is really nice to have.
Yeah, super exciting. So that just leaves us with the nice narwhals, Team Trash Pandas, and not to be left out, the Outsiders. So what do we know about these three teams here? It seems like we've got the yin to the naughty narwhals yang here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the nice narwhals, they were a lot of the naughty players that I think just like didn't have a I don't want to say they didn't have a home, right? Because like they were all in the naughty org. It's got like MXTI, it's got Lil Deer, Very Frightening, etc., etc. But their mid laner, who's actually the captain for the squad, I was kind of referencing earlier with like Duolingo Owl for TDS. Cryo, the captain, is the mid laner for that team that I play on over the summer, and super nice guy. I think he's like one of the most consistent control mages I've ever seen. Like he's never the reason that this team's gonna lose, I think. I think it's just gonna come down to like because it was kind of thrown together late in the sign up window, just like how quickly can they come together. I'd probably like start kind of like in that similar vein of like strawberry milk. They gotta like they gotta learn how to gel as a team. They gotta like figure it out as they go. But all you need is like a seat at the table for playoffs, and like you just have to make top four. Which like I think Group D, there's a lot of high ceilings and high like potential floors for or low floors, I guess would be the way to say that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of room to make playoffs.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Do we feel like that's an underdog team, or do we feel like they slot into bubble, dark horse?
I'd go dark horse, I think. Because that team, depending on how some players acclimate to financial, you could see them like rising up fast. I mean, Rin, aka MXTI, is like the main person. It's like if Rin's game translates nicely to financial, I fear for the top laners.
Yeah.
That is one of the best abuses of counter pick in the league, period.
And then finishing out Group D, we have Team Trash Pandas and the Outsiders. Team Trash Pandas, neither team a stranger to the. This is the first group I think that has not had any new teams in it, so pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Not a lot of returners.
Strawberry milk, technically.
Strawberry
milk.
milk.
Technically, yeah.
You're right.
But other than that,
lot of. Tell me a little bit about the Trash Pandas and the Outsiders here.
TTP is a team that saw a lot of different players play, all to mixed results, right? I think they they either just barely or they were in the playoff race until like the last 1-2 weeks or so. I think TTP Trash Pandas are super solid. They've been their coach, their captain has been around Rose Mantis. I'm not actually sure. yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I think has been around for a decent bit. This roster is shown to be competitive, and I think
Mm-hmm.
with more spots, with double the spots
Mm-hmm.
making it into the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised. I think they're an underdog pick, but I think they could easily rise up and kind of do their thing and get into playoffs.
I remember their AD carry being really good.
Yeah,
Last season when I had to face off against these guys. And it looks like their mid laner also. I mean, D4, Jeeves,
yeah, Jeeves the
Jeeves the
ninja.
ninja. Yeah, like they have some good carries for sure. So like I wouldn't be surprised. Like I'd put them in the bubble pretty confidently.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Well, that just leaves us with, funnily enough,
The
the
outsider.
outsiders. So where do we feel like this team slots in so that we can finish out financial?
It kind of
They're
just depends how
pretty.
you like, because they've been posting a ton in the scrims channel. Like they've kind of been like the grinders this off season. Like once the roster's put together, they're like, I don't know, 2-3 times a week they're looking to scrim.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where
Yeah,
like we don't know how those scrims are going. I mean, I think I scrimmed them once, but like other than that, it's like we don't know how they're going. So you kind of have to take a guess on like, are things going well? Are they like scaling up? Are they learning a lot?
Right. Right.
I'd probably put them in like the underdog without knowing exactly how those scrims are going, but
I think
I
that's
know
fair.
Ghost is like individually very motivated
Mm-hmm.
to like want to, what's the word I'm looking for? He wants to like prove he belongs in financial and like wants to have a good season.
yeah, and that
Mhm.
ambition is really strong,
Yeah.
especially in financial.
I do love gumption. Well, that rounds out our financial rankings here. So we've got the TV Rat Knights and the High Alert Nightmares in our favorites category. In the bubble, we've got Strix, Chaos, and Team Trash Pandas. We've got one of our new teams, Strawberry Milk, joining the Outsiders in the Underdog tier, and our Dark Horse as the Nice Narwhals, which I guess would make that the Dark Narwhals. Uh, Now we
Yes.
get to move up to the big league tier. And if folks were here at the very beginning, they'll remember that I said that like there weren't a whole lot of new teams in economy, commercial, and financial, and then all of a sudden you get to executive, and like 3/4 of the teams are new. So we don't have as much
More
information to go
than
on. But using what information we do have available to us, maybe from scrim records, maybe we recognize players from other competitive leagues, maybe from the OP.GGs. What do we think about these teams in executive group A?
you have no. I think the greater LBLCS is about to learn how insane Bondi is. I think this is the best season for Glue Eaters. That core of players
Mhm.
made a solid run. Kind of surprised some people with how good their run was.
Yep.
They made it to the finals, lost to Lost Cause, and they made 2 finals in 3 seasons. That is in executive, that is a tough ass accomplishment. They took their first to 5 games back in season 10 and then went to 4 games in season just last season.
Mhm.
There's no lost cause in the way now.
No lost cause.
I No lost cause in the way, no past prime,
Mhm.
none of those teams that are really going to give a solid fight. I'm very, very, very excited to see how well um how strong Glue Eaters come out the gate.
Yeah. Me too. Me too. Um. What? What? Yeah. Hacks offender saying someone else has to stop them now. I guess we'll find out
Yeah,
about that.
we will
If there
have to
was
find out.
is there another contender here that we feel slots into this second favorite slot, or do we feel like the remaining teams kind of scatter below Glue Eaters, maybe perchance nipping at their heels?
Let's talk about Mr. Zelius and his new team because he's a jungler now.
Yeah.
Uh Broken Household.
Okay.
Um is a scary team. Nitrogen, a Happy Dream is coming in as their mid laner. Sports, I believe. I don't know who their ADC is. I think it's Sports.
Mhm.
Not actually sure. But they've got plenty of like amazing players coming in. I think it'll be very interesting to see if that team comes out the gate firing because I think they lost one of the players.
Mhm.
Tuzzo had an elite season
Mhm.
as their jungler. I think just missed out on all league, but I think could have definitely bump this team up as well.
So are you suggesting that Broken Household might be contesting in this favorite slot here?
I'm not super sure. Either favorite or bubble, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah, either upper bubble or lower favorite. Maybe.
We'll put them upper bubble for now. Give them something to work for.
Bubble Mac.
And then now we're here with these 5 new teams. I'd honk to that,
Ooh.
which is my favorite team name in the LBLCS this season. Odin's Eye Gaming, Goobers Incorporated, SNE Academy, and Luce's Improve. So, what shows up for you guys in these teams from any information we've got available to us?
I think like when I'm looking at executive, and maybe this is like not the right approach, but to me, like what stands out are like those, those purple border players,
Yeah.
the guys
Yeah.
who've hit masters, and like there's a couple that you can see. I think is it Goobers Incorporated. They have Swiftly, longtime LBLCS player, has hit masters. Got a
Oof.
diamond bot lane. Their top laners pushing masters, kind of in that D1 range. SNE Academy has a masters level 80 carry. Those two teams look pretty similar to me, like similar strengths. I think that could be a pretty fun
Mm-hmm.
head-to-head matchup whenever that time comes. Like purely looking at these, I think I would go SNE over the Goobers. But that's like got to be pretty close. That's like splitting hairs.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely
Yeah.
splitting hairs between those two. Because I mean, what a lot of things you'll see in executives that masters player is what pushes some teams over the edge. Sometimes it's what and where that player is so important because you've seen honestly Masters, the big place for Masters players to be, it feels like, is jungle and support, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are where like the winners arrive. But I think Masters ADCs also knock the ball out of the park just as often.
Yeah.
It just so happens that those guys also like get second place more often than not.
I can speak
That
a little
was
bit to
intense.
Swiftly too. I spent a lot of the off season working with Swiftly. Or just like hanging out, like talking stuff. Swiftly's sick, really good knowledge of the game, and a really good voice, like a really vocal player. So having a Masters player on support who's vocal about macro and like what they want to do in the game and directing, a lot of times elevates those players who are in Diamond to have the mechanics but don't quite have the game knowledge. To having somebody on your team who is high elo, who's like directing the port of the game and making the game easier for you. So I would expect that team to be pretty competitive. I think Swiftly will be one of the people we're talking about at the end of the year for awards when we're doing voting. Yeah.
And I think that like when you have a support player who basically has like mental capacity, when you have a masters player who's playing support, they have more mental load available to dedicate to the macro because there's a lot less micro that goes into it than say like AD carry. I mean, like when I play AD carry, I'm like, wow, I never want to play this role. That's too much right clicking. It's so annoying. And you have to hit A lot, and there's so many things you have to think about. It's like when I play support, I just run around and usually somehow manage to find my way into Praetorian's lane and die in it a couple of times, or really miss something that shouldn't have been missed. But anyway, we've still got 2 more teams here. We've got Loses Improve, and we've got I'd Honk to that, and 3 more teams plus Odin's Eye Gaming. So what stood up for you guys on these teams here?
I think the interesting thing for me with I think let me double check these teams just to make sure I'm not talking about the wrong team.
Odin's Eye's like average rank is pretty solid. I would say like looking at them, they don't have a Masters player, which usually jumps out. So to me, like looking just at their op.gg, like Odin's Eye's like maybe a lower bubble underdog team.
Okay.
It's one of those things where like
where I'd put them.
Yeah. I think they definitely have potential. They have a couple players. I mean, just purely based on like looking at op.gg, so it look like they could be pop-off players. They're very good, but obviously like executive is more than probably any. I could be wrong about this, but I feel like almost every player in executive is pretty good mechanically, at least to a certain level. And this is the most where you see people abusing like game knowledge, like the gap between like someone who's like a pretty good mechanical, decent macro player, and you're going to play against people who are very good, like top 1% in like North America, which is that matters more. So newer teams, a lot of times, getting off running can be hard if you don't have like that higher elo leadership, that person who's like really good at macro and understanding that stuff. But you never know. Obviously, like we can only look at solo queue ratings. This could be a team that's played together for a while that comes in. It's just like we're just not that into playing solo queue that much. So I think underdog's a good place for him to be.
Okay. What about the I'd Honk to that or Loses Improve?
with I'd honk to that if I'm not mistaken, and if I am mistaken, I will sound like a fool. But I
Like a
believe,
clown, perhaps.
yeah, I would look like a clown for sure. But I believe the one of the players in that roster was the former coach of Mirage Alliance. I want to say in like the NACL, like the actual like pro scene.
Oh,
I believe I'm looking at this correctly. I'm having to Google on the spot and just make sure I didn't just state completely fake information. Rothmal, head coach of Mirage Alliance. So
wow.
talking about like
Nice.
having that macro sense, like you're having a guy who's coaching at almost the highest level in North America. Like that team's got to watch out. I think teams have to keep that in mind when you're facing that team. Like even though the ranks on paper, there isn't like this Masters player, there isn't like this dynamite superstar. I mean, there is a former master last season in support, but like you're gonna have to win the macro game more than you're gonna have to win the like hands game against those.
Yeah.
Very exciting. And then where we are currently on Executive Group A. So I've got the team, the group and league name up here in this corner here in the white. And if you feel like you missed most of the conversation, do not worry. The VOD will be on YouTube, and you can always chat about it with us in community chat. And don't make us defend our takes because we will dig in our heels like nobody's business. So we've got one more team in Executive A before we can finish off of our rankings with Executive Group B. So where do we feel like losers improve slots? Do they give us a purple candidate, or do we feel like maybe they slot somewhere in the bubble to underdog tier?
I'd say dark horse.
I'd say dark horse.
Yeah, every executive season has like that team where you're like they might dock everybody. I think that's their vibe. I would be very excited to see them like just come out and, like ruin some favorites like season, right? They just like stop. Imagine they stop like glue eaters from making playoffs.
That'd be crazy.
That would be so funny.
So there you have it. Those are our rankings for Executive Group A. Our favorites are the Glue Eaters, led by our Lord and Savior Bondi. Then we've got Broken Household with Zelius topping off our bubble, joined by 3 new teams: SNE Academy, Goobers Incorporated, and I'd honk to that with their superstar macro coach jungler. And then for our underdog, we have Odin's Eye Gaming, and our dark horses loses improve. So let's finish off. We are in the home stretch here with Executive Group B. Also 2 returning teams and 5 new teams. So again, tons of really new stuff. So what is sort of standing out to you guys about this group just from looking at it? Go ahead, Vega.
Charles, who you got?
Yeah. He's either playing in China or Japan.
China or Japan. We need to
That's
be
not the name of the
more
team.
specific.
Guangdong Tigers. Ni hao! Ni hao!
Okay, so the Guangdong
only one
Tigers,
team in this
talk
group.
to us
There's
about
only
it.
one. There's only one team. I have not done enough research on this team, but their name is really, really good. I mean, okay, on a serious note, I think High Alert Eclipse should be in a decent spot here.
Yeah.
Rescued hitting Masters. We just talked about how important that is, having someone high elo in a role like that's able to kind of dictate the map and like move people around. I think that team on paper looks very good to me. High Alert kind of rebounding from last year, kind of an executive. What happened to this year? This roster looking really good. Guangdong Tigers obviously should be second behind that, but
Obviously.
But yeah, I think High Alert for me on paper, that's the team I'm most excited about in this group.
All right. And I will fall right behind. Dirty Rocks Xfinity is bringing their energy, their wackiness, their strengths into executive, and I think it'll translate well. They've got some really strong players, and they've added. I think one of the things that is always like when you see a team move up from financial to executive, you sometimes it's because one player like hits that rank threshold and the whole team has to move up. They've added some scary ass players to kind of help complement their move up, and I think that is going to make the team difficult to handle.
Yeah, DRX is a fearsome opponent in financial. Les, first, are you going to speak to that?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna they always it didn't matter what season we're talking about. They just always it didn't matter what the standings were looking like midway through. Like they always found their way to playoffs and beating the best teams. Like I remember the upset a couple seasons ago. Like DRX kind of smoked KFC foreign guy with like 22 kills on Zeri. Like they're a really good team, and so I'm just curious to see like what's that jump look like, because we saw last season, KFC had a similar thing. They jumped up to executive, didn't make playoffs, so it's like, what's it going to look like for DRX?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what happens here. We've got a bunch of new teams: Archers, Amateurs, AP Krogma, Team Death Knights Blue, Diamond 4 Gamers, our Guangdong Tigers, who we've already slotted into our number 2 favorite slot. What do we know about the remaining 4 new teams here, and where they might perhaps slot into either our bubble, underdog, or perhaps giving us some purple dark horses here?
Rescued in chat saying that they've scrimmed the Diamond 4 Gamers several times and says that they will be a solid team. I will say that while looking at their roster, I'm a little confused because there's a lot of players that aren't Diamond 4s. So I don't know if we're just like liars or if we've really just scaled up since we submitted the rosters. But they look really good. AD carry and support look like they're right at that like D2 level. It looks like a really good roster. From what I can tell, like I don't see like there isn't like the master standout, but a lot of like well-rounded pieces.
Also, Team Death Knights Blue. Current ranks in Diamond, but their AD carry and their mid were both masters last split. So in the high mechanical like roles where you want to have like pop-offs, they have people who are very good. Oh, looks like depending, their support potentially could also have been at some point. But yeah, looking just purely off OP.GG's, I think that team's definitely going to be a bubble team, depending on how they click together. But that team looks sick on paper.
Okay. So that just leaves us with AP Krogma and Archers Amateurs. So where just looking at the OP.GGs, or perhaps the bits and pieces of scrim knowledge that we have, and maybe some people in the chat want to chime in if there's other scrims that we don't know about. Where do these remaining teams? Do you feel like there's an underdog here, a dark horse? What's the sitch?
We'll give chat a moment to see if there's anyone from Eclipse that knows.
Archers Amateurs are not on the roster sheet.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So I have faith that they're probably not like a very solid underdog, and I'd say the same for
You could say they're a dark horse because we actually don't know.
We actually have no idea.
Yeah, literally don't know.
Actually don't know. They're actually the darkest horse you could have. They're shrouded in mystery.
Which is so fun, yes.
And I think AP Krogma solidly slots into the underdog position as well. I think they've got some solid players, but you have to. Everyone, I think, is gonna want to see if they can break into the upper echelon.
Okay,
I think that's good.
Well, so that closes us out. For Executive B, with the Hyler Eclipse and the Guangdong Tigers and the favorites tier, Dirty Rat 6 Finity, Diamond 4 Gamers, Team Death Knights Blue, housed in our bubble tier. Our underdogs are AP Krogma, and our dark horse candidate is Archers Amateurs. And that is all of the groups for all of the leagues. It only took us 2.5 hours to go through them. Thank you, gentlefolk, for the marathon here. I am incredibly excited for this season. I know I say it every season, but it's because I'm incredibly excited every fucking season, right? This is going to be a ton of fun. If you are listening and you missed a discussion about a group, or you didn't get to, or you want to go back and watch something, the VOD will be on YouTube whenever that gets processed. I'll try to start the upload today. We'll see what happens. And you can always start pinging people in the chat. Ping Vega and just like really thrash his takes.
Yeah, come at me.
Ping me and say, why didn't you give your own takes? And it's because nobody needs that. Anyways, thank you all so much for sitting here listening. I think I speak for all the booth members when I say that like this is at least one of our number one favorite things to do in the LBLCS, being able to make this content, and it wouldn't be possible without all of you guys watching. So I'll pass it to my analysts for some final words, and then I'll close us out.
Thanks for once again wrangling the cats, Jack, and getting us all together and running this. Excellent job today. And yeah, shout out to everybody in the community for coming by and talking, representing your teams. If there's stuff we're going to be doing episodes obviously throughout the year. If you're on a team and there's stuff you want us to know about your team, that the more information we have about you, the more we can talk about. So if there's storyline stuff like that, interesting stuff about your team, ping us, reach out to us. We're totally down to get that. Yeah, just thanks everybody again. Another wonderful season, hopefully, and really excited for it.
Yeah, I mean, if you stuck around for 2.5 hours, almost the length of
we'll never know. Let's force this cut out.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan. He's back.
Oh, that's strange. If you stuck around the full length of a featured movie nowadays, 3 hours, you rock. So just thanks for sticking around. And Vega said a lot of really smart and awesome things there. So I'm just gonna piggyback off that.
And I'm
That's
really
what I was
happy
gonna
to
say.
have this episode. I think this was almost too much fun, and I'm very excited to show you guys some of the awful ideas we've come up with as the season goes on.
Yes, I echo that sentiment. I'm really excited to see if we can get some of these ideas off the ground and into the airwaves and onto your computer screens and in your ears. So tune in next time. We'll be continuing to do the booth on Sundays through the season. Maybe every Sunday, maybe every other Sunday, maybe we don't know. We'll have to find out. Maybe tune in next time. Are our predictions going to stay solid? Will Les Force and Vega continue to glaze each other on air? What will happen? Will Valentine pull out some historic knowledge that changes the game a little bit here? But I think that closes out our show for today. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember that it takes two to tango. Have a good night.